MONOSTEEL is organizing this national conference on the sustainable mobility. One of the most important, I think, topic to talk. Recently, our Honorable Prime Minister has launched the Vehicle Scrap Policy 2021, which is supposed to be a landmark initiative in the field of the automotive sector. And we are gathered here to discuss the benefits of the policy and how this policy can benefit India and how this can be a gateway of India's automotive revolution. So to talk on this, I will straight away I'll invite a couple of our leaders from the automobile sector before we invite the Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister has already joined. And very shortly, our Director of the Ministry of Transport will also be joining. Our office has already joined. And before we invite our ministry officials to talk on the policy, I will request our experts from the industry, especially our association leaders, to talk and view or share their views on this. And before that, I will first invite Dr. P. Shekhar, who is an advisor, a policy influencer, a leader in his own domain, working with the government, now working in various fields. And since last 1.5 decades, he's been working on various policy domain, sharing his knowledge and expertise, who has authored more than 120 books. I will request Dr. Shekhar to give the introductory remarks on this before I invite Sanjay Bhai Mehta and Mr. P.K. Banerjee sir to take it further. So, Dr. Shekhar.
Thank you, Akram. Today, yes, it's a landmark day. Landmark day for something which is like scrapping something. One will start wondering why scrapping should be landmark. Scrapping should be scrapped. But how does it become a landmark? Today, as we as Indians grow into a different dimension of growth, everything is in excess and many things are in shortage. For the shortage and things in excess to match, we need some policies. Today, when we are on a vehicle going somewhere, there's a heavy traffic. People say, "Oh, everything is bad." Some people say, "Oh, that means we are prospering. That's why there are so many vehicles." Okay, so when there are so many vehicles and that is in excess than what the road can have, then there is development. Then the road needs to be made bigger. The road needs to be into more planned, more strategically managed, better for the public. Same way, every aspect of development comes at a price. So what I will do, I will just rush through this small presentation, which will give an idea. I'll do it in 5 minutes time, as if we would like to hear from the real experts. I am a generic expert. There are real experts sitting here. So this is National Conference on India's Vehicle Scrap Policy. Now, what do we exactly mean by this policy and what is its relevance? What is it, what we call as a cyclic economy? All those things I will just touch upon. I will not go into detail because, so coming to the focus of today's conference, I will have first few slides which are generic in nature, means as India, many times I find, even though I have played it a number of times, that the complexity and the integrity of India, many of us have to analyze and reanalyze. When we say India with the type of population, with the type of past background, we are a 10,000-year-old country and so on and so forth. We are still 206 countries put together in India. So when we talk of India, we should know the magnitude of problem. But we cannot shy away from the problems. We have to have opportunities because we are the most favored nation in the world. No other country in the world is welcome throughout the continent as Indians are. So Indians, for information, in 210 countries, there are 32 million Indians, which is a huge. So they all contribute to various aspects of India's development. So when India develops, there is India's $2.5 trillion economy, and there is $1 trillion economy of this overseas Indians also. Now, automobile forms a very important component. I'm not going to go slide by slide. This is just to say that these are aspects which has to be analyzed. Why the simple slide like Advantage India? Advantage India means India is today on a growth map. No more we are a developing country. We are one very proud developing country. We are considering ourselves to be underprivileged. We are considered to be poor. We are considered so many things. We are looking for next day's food from some other country. Today we are food export, vehicle export. We are exporting technology. We are exporting so many things. At the same time, there is so much of people to be taken care. So the advantage in India is when new people are coming, whether they are liability or an asset. If you use them properly, they are an asset. If you don't use them properly, they are a liability. So can we make 20 million liabilities every year? 20 million new Indians are there every year. So we cannot afford to. So everyone which is here have to take care of our future generation. When we take care of future generation, scrapping policy comes as one of the prime objectives. Can we just keep all our scraps and then let our future generation suffer? Future generation of 20 million new people have to be taken care, and we cannot keep scrap as something which will drive them into a huge environmental issues in terms of, the roads will get jammed, the houses will get packed, there'll be no place for many things. Even though as Indians, we use only 0.45% of India. There is 99% of India is still there. But if you don't use the place properly, what is the use of having a place? Whatever place we have got, we should use them properly. And these give rise to huge pollution problem. Again, pollution does not mean we are going to disturb nature. For nature, we don't even exist, either as humans or as Indians. So, but anything around us being polluted is something which is going to really make our life miserable. So, the air pollution should be seen from the point of view of our growth, our stability, and our sustainability. Now, if you see, vehicle, other slides had got other facts and figures. In terms of vehicles, we know we are in a 300 million plus in terms of vehicle. So these are all very small. So when we are saying we are a developing country, we are yet to develop and all. Today we are on top of the world in many of these things, as slowly we are caught up to this thing. So you'll find this one small slide, which I will go through in a little more. The thing, 17 lakh medium and heavy vehicles are older than 15 years. Okay. Vehicle above 5 years is something which is, which should be either scrapped or reconditioned or remodeled to be a new vehicle. But there are 15 years and 15 to 34 lakh light vehicles are there for more than 20 years. Okay. And many more facts and figures, I'm sure people in the thing we have. So it's a thing like this coming everywhere, this thing. Again, you can remember we are prosperous. We are no more when we don't have luxuries. We have luxuries. Even today, even a person who is on a lower level can at least afford a two-wheeler, can afford. Previously, even having a cycle was a big luxury. Today, having two-wheeler, four-wheeler and all, or a normal activity. So this vehicle scrapping policy, it should not be seen as something by which, oh, I have used it. So let me just, instead of throwing it down, I will just throw it in a scrapyard and the scrapyard will take care of the balance. No, vehicle scrapping is much more than that. Nature has given us land and water. And on the side, it has given, fire, wind and thinking capacity to the human, knowledge to humans. So rest all things are, there are nothing. The combination of this which works. So when we make a vehicle or when we make a chip on the other side, which is my own field of research, is where the same sand is giving us all this thing. So when something is used, we get a semi-knocked down, semi-finished item, which is what is being, whatever we call thrown out or whatever we call as scrapped. So that means already it is conditioned to some level. So it should be very easy to reposition back. But what does the problem come? If you make a complex combination, then it becomes very difficult to separate out. So whatever we do as scrap we have to see that, we are not giving a composite thing so that the scrapping means it has to be burnt. That's what we used to do about 20 years back. 20 years back, anything that is scrap meat has to be burnt. Every scrapyard was a burning ground and polluting the atmosphere, polluting everything. All those things has to be first scrapped. There's no question of burning anything, including in food industry, they burn, which is what is calling the daily pollution. So any of the scrapping has to be taken care. And we have to ensure that I'm just ending it quickly, that please do not mind me, not going through this because there are others who are. Now, in many of these things, there is a doctrine called secured governance, which is for self-sustaining growth of economy. This itself becomes a hidden potential for growth this itself will become a huge entailment for self-sustained growth, because we are destroying something which is valuable, which will come in secure governance. Of course, a very detailed analysis and detailed way in which, how the whole thing, by creating a hub, mini hub, nano hub, we will have an economy in which money will be cycling, and which is what the cycling economy is also fortunately doing. So we have got an excellent speakers, and we have got associations for the first time, so many associations coming together because of the importance of the topic which is there today. And we have our General V.K. Singh, who is one of the most important dignitary in terms of his contribution. As a general, he has done; as a Minister of Highways and Transport, he has done; and even as an individual on any aspect, he is one of those generals who fights from the front. He doesn't sit in the air-conditioned cabin and dictate. He's one of those. He's famous for many things, which I did not say, I'm sure, while introducing him, that we told. So we have got something very good. I'm sure this will see the light of the day, and this will be one of the landmark conferences which will have its own importance. I'll give it back to Akram to take it further.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Shekhar, for your really comprehensive view on the overall automotive sector. I will request now, I'm really honored, is manager service here. So now there are two individuals I want to introduce, two leaders actually, Mr. Sanjay Bhai Mehta, who is the Honorable President of MRAI, and Mr. P.K. Banerjee, sir, who represents SIAM. These are two leaders and individuals and organizations which have done immense contribution in the policy framework that we are going to see very shortly. I would request first Sanjay Bhai Mehta to kindly give an overview. Honorable Minister is with us. He will be joining us with camera soon, but he is following us. I would first request Sanjay Bhai Mehta to give an account of your journey, contribution in terms of how you see the policy, gaining up and getting to the shape that we have today, and what would be your view and reflection on this. Sanjay Bhai Mehta.
Yeah, thank you very much, Akram. And as rightly said by Mr. Dr. Shekhar, that it is a right documents, right policy for our country. A warm welcome to all dignitaries off and on the dais. Myself is as described by Mr. Akram, Sanjay Mehta, President of MRAI, as well as Director of MTC Group. I'm fortunate to be a part of the National Conference on India's Sustainability Mobility in light of India's Vehicle Scrapping Policy 2021, organized by Policy Times in association with MRAI and MONOSTEEL. Today, I feel privileged to be present my views on India's Vehicle Scrappage Policy 2021 in front of Hon'ble Minister of State, Dr. V.K. Vijay Kumar Singh ji, North, Shri Paresh Goyal ji, Director, North, Shri P.K. Banerjee Saab, SIAM, and Mr. Tejas Shah, MONOSTEEL, and Dr. P. Shekhar. Friends, before coming to my topic of presentations, may I take a few minutes of your time to talk about more than a decade association like of MRAI. The Apex National Association is leading light on everything being recycled in the country. With 1,200 members and growing, MRAI is now becoming synonymous with recycling. Thanks to the work the association and the members have carried out so far during the last 10 years to promote responsible recycling in the country, today it is representing almost all the major verticals of the recycling, be it ferrous, non-ferrous, plastic, paper, e-waste, rubber, and tire and textiles. MRAI is fortunate to be working with the policymakers at the government, both at the central and state levels, and think tanks in the forefronts of recycling, sustainability, circular economy initiatives. The world is moving towards circular economy, and the introduction of vehicle scrappage policy by our Honorable PM is going to open new horizons for the recyclers of the country. Practically, the vehicle manufactured today are much more efficient in terms of being environmentally viable as compared to those which are 10 to 15 years old. As it rightly said, the emissions produced by 11 new cars is equivalent to that produced by just a single old today. Today, a conservative estimates of the ELV populations in 2021 stands is around 21 million, growing at an annual rate of 4 to 5% per annum, out of which two-wheelers account for 80%, passenger cars 14%, commercial vehicles 3%, and three-wheelers account of 2 to 3%. As you all know, recycling every car saves more than 2,500 lbs of iron ore. For new steel, 1,400 lbs of coal and 120 lbs of limestone. 85 to 95% of automotive aluminum is recovered and recycled if we do go for ELV. Just briefing about the policy, I would like to underline that in this policy, the primary criteria that has been decided for the scrap is the fitness of the vehicle and not the age, because of which various jobs will be generated in the fitness sector itself all over the country on the district level in public-private partnership mode. This policy will play a great role in removing unfit vehicles and modernization of automobile populations. Moreover, commercial vehicles has to be scrapped if proved unfit in the automotive fitness test, which are going to be effective from April 1st, 2023. This will be applicable to all government vehicles older than 15 years and from 1st June 2024 for all personal vehicles. Scrapping of current end-of-life vehicles burden of the country will alone lead to 15 to 20% of reduction in emissions caused due to vehicle pollution. This will also help in developing an organized scrapping industry which will be transparent and environment friendly. As per the policy prescriptions, the government targets of voluntary scrapping of around 1 crore vehicle only on the basis of their fitness and not on the age. Out of this, almost 76% of the total ELV volumes comes from top 10 states and undertakings, and this will be linked to Vahan portal. Both the commercial as well as non-commercial private vehicles will be declared ELVs if they are found unfit in the fitness test, retest and re-inspection if ordered by appellate authority at the time of renewal of the registration certificate. Government is also planning for incentive and disincentivize mechanics which will help in inducing end-of-life vehicles owner to scrap other vehicles. Incentives like are framing rules for state governments, scrap value for old vehicles, waiving of registration fees for new vehicles, or auto OEMs to be advised to give 5% discount on new vehicles, concession on road tax up to 25% on non-transport vehicle and up to 15% on transport vehicles. It is mandatory to give road tax concessions by the state government as per the policy. They may reduce from 15% and 25%, but cannot make 0% concessions as per the policy, which will be released in a couple of days or weeks' time. This incentivize like increase fees for fitness test and likewise fitness certificate also. Increase re-registration fees. This policy is profitable for all stakeholders because manufacturing sector will be encouraged. Metals required in manufacturing sector will come out as waste and it will generate various employment opportunities. Also, with the reduced cost on raw materials, the cost on finished products may also be reduced, which will make us more competitive in the international market, increasing exports and benefiting government with more revenue and will definitely create more employment. So it is a win-win situation for every one of us. This policy also outlined key steps for facilitating the state up of necessary support infrastructure in form of automated testing stations, that is called ATS, and registered vehicle scrapping policy, RVSF. Moreover, detailed guidelines have already been issued by the government for ATS, and the government also wants RVSF to be technologically advanced, transparent, and environmentally safe in their operations as well. Once the final policy is in public domain, it will bring multifold benefits. Likewise, it will help in improving road, passenger and vehicle safety, also helping in improvement of fuel efficiency and reduce the maintenance cost of vehicle owners. The policy is advised to hemorrhagically boost the auto sector sales, thereby resulting into employment generations also. This result in organized setup and collection channels of vehicles for scrappage, transport transparent pricing, economies of scale, high percentage of recovery from scrap, thereby resulting into more tax revenue to government. It will help a lot in formalizing the current informal sector of the country. The incentives have been planned for new vehicles purchased against ELVs, favor of, like I have already told, waiver of registration, concessions, and advisory to OEM to give discounts up to 5%. The RVSFs are required to promote many things: priority to safe operations, technology-driven, enhanced value discovery, collaboration with existing value chain. Government visualized the establishing of approximately 50 to 100 centers in the coming 5 years for catering the vehicle scrapping requirements. Central single window clearance portal to be developed for ease of doing business. RVSFs are not restricted to particular states and can accept vehicle for scrapping from any state and Indian territories also. There is no doubt that the implementation of the policy will bring not only huge employment generation in the country, but will also help in making available good quality domestic scrap. However, as a stakeholder, we have a few recommendations, like till the time India becomes Atmanirbhar, request government to provide incentives in the terms of tax rebate on land subsidy to the organized sector for setting up of RVSF, so that the vehicles do not go to unorganized sector. At least this has to be to first 50 or 100 RVSF. With various schemes floated by the government, it will help in attracting more and more stakeholders to set up RVSF plants. We also recommend that government used vehicles should be directly given to RVSF so that it will help them in fulfilling their basic tonnage requirement for scrapping of vehicles. Lastly, since proper implementation of the policy will take at least minimum 5 years, the Indian recycling industry will have to depend on import of scrap. Till there is sufficient availability of good quality scrap, there should not be no duty as on today for till February. There is no duty on scrap imports. This should be continued for next 5 years. Let me briefly introduce about my company as well as MTC Group on this platform. MTC Group is 47 years old, Mumbai-based business group with domestic and international business operations in scrap, ferrous, non-ferrous, ferroalloys, base metals, minor metals, iron ore, steel, flat and long products, and automobiles, plastic as well as e-waste recycling. We operate across 9 locations with 18 facilities in India and also have international presence, USA, UK, UAE, Singapore, handling around 2 million metric tons of metals annually. We also produce many steel, aluminum, and copper with business turnover exceeding 9,000 crores annually. MTC Group is the largest ferrous scrap collection and processing company in India and the leading recycler in the country. MTC Group also employs more than 5,500 personnel in its various divisions. Thank you very much, Policy Times, for giving me an opportunity for my views. Thank you very much, Pareshji. And I have already also sent a mail to North Ministry for coming out with an excellent opportunity for the business circles and excellent policy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sanjay Bhai Mehtaji, for your kind remarks, and wonderful to listen to the kind of points and the important initiatives that the policy has drafted or come up with. Your highlight is really very nice. Now I will invite, because Sir has another meeting to catch quickly. So Shri Paresh Kumar Goyal, who is the Director at Transport and IC at the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, Government of India. Paresh Sir is one of such few policymakers who have since long have worked on the policy and has spoken to, I think, thousands of stakeholders across India and many parts of the world, studied many such policies, scrap policies of different countries, and finally drafted something like worth reading what we have in front of us. So without taking any more time, Honorable Minister will be joining us any point soon. He is there already with us. I will first have request, in fact, Sri Paresh Kumar Goyal sir, to kindly have your remarks on the policy.
Thank you so much, Mr. Akram Haq, the founder editor of the Policy Time. And I am also thankful to the members of MRAI, Shri Sanjay Mehta, the president, and the members of MRAI for inviting me to this forum. I think many representatives from automobile OEMs, automobile and the recyclers are here. I can see Mr. Prashant Banerjee also from Siam. So thank you very much for inviting me here. So recently this scrapping policy has been announced. Honorable Prime Minister has launched this policy in the Investor Summit in Gandhinagar. And earlier to this, it was announced in the Parliament by the Honorable Finance Minister and subsequently by the Honorable Minister Road Transport and Highways, Shri Nitin Gadkari ji. As you are aware, there is a substantial number of vehicle data in the Vahan database. Honorable Minister has also joined. So, Akram sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, sir. I want to welcome Honorable Minister General V.K. Singh. It's an absolute honor to have you, sir, on this platform. And, we have been Policy Times since last 4 years, have been working at the policy advocacy level. Our mission is, every policy that governments make has an objective to achieve. And how we need media platforms like us becoming one of the forerunners in terms of executing such policies for the nation and helping, facilitating in the entire system. So we will hear Sri Paresh Goyal sir first, and then I'll invite you to kindly formally share your views, sir. So Paresh sir, over to you. Yeah, kindly unmute yourself.
Thank you so much. There is a substantial number of vehicles in the Vahan data which are not having the valid registration as well as the valid fitness. And it is true that many of such vehicles would have been scrapped, but many of these vehicles are plying on the road and they are the major cause of pollution as well as crashes on road. So the objective and the main culprits are the commercial vehicles. We understand they ply more on the road, so they pollute more. So the main objective of this vehicle scrapping policy or the voluntary vehicle fleet modernization program, we know this policy as VVMP, is to reduce pollution due to old and unfit vehicles, improve safety on the roads, improve passenger and vehicular safety, fuel efficiency, as well as the reduced maintenance cost for the vehicle owner. And this policy will also going to boost the auto sector. It will also formalize the currently informal vehicle scrapping industry into the formal vehicle scrapping industry. It will also boost the availability of low-cost raw material for the automotive and the steel industry. And it will help in setting up the new vehicle scrapping industry and generate the employment. So this is not an age-based policy. The vehicles are to be scrapped based on the fitness of the vehicle. If a vehicle is unfit, that will be recommended for the scrapping. There is no age criteria in this policy. Several measures have been taken in this policy to incentivize and de-incentivize the people to scrap their old vehicles. And the incentives will be given that will be linked to the production of the valid certificate of deposit. The certificate of deposit will be issued by the registered vehicle scrapping facility, we know as RVSF. So once you deposit your vehicle with the valid documents which are required as per the rules, then you will be issued a certificate of deposit. And you can get various incentives such as the waiver in the registration fee when you go for purchase of new vehicle. You will also get certain tax, certain rebate in the road tax on the purchase of new vehicle. And we have prescribed that you will get up to 25% rebate in the road tax and for the vehicles up to 15 years. It will not be beyond 15 years. And you will also get for the commercial vehicle, it is up to 8 years, 15% rebate in the road tax. We have also requested the OEMs to provide a discount up to 5% on the purchase of new vehicle against the COD. The deregistration of the vehicles will be the responsibility of the RVSF, and a vehicle can be scrapped anywhere in the country through any RVSF. So there is no restriction that the vehicle registered in a particular state will be scrapped by the RVSF in a particular state only. And if your vehicle is fit and you want to continue with it, then you will have to pay certain increased charges in case of re-registration and the fitness for the vehicles which are over 15 years of age. And you have to pay an increased fitness test fee for the vehicles which are more than 15 years. The rationale is that the old vehicles which are more than 15 years old, they are conforming to the old emission norms, and they are relatively polluting more to the environment. So the two main pillars of this policies are the rules for the RVSF, that is Registered Vehicle Scrapping Facility, and the automated testing stations. So as you must be aware that we have issued the rules, the draft notification in respect of RVSF on 15th March of 2021, and for the automated testing stations on 8th April of 2021. And I was getting several queries. In fact, MRI, Mr. Kohli has called me a number of times that when rules are to be final notification are to be published. So let me tell you that we have finalized the rules and the notifications will be out within 1 or 2 days. So these are the main features of the policy. Now, if I can speak about the RVSF rules, the salient features of the RVSF rules. So let me tell you that we are going to create a single window clearance system for the registration of the RVSF. This will be done on the Madhyam portal, and very soon it will be launched for the registration of the RVSF. All the approvals will be provided in the time-bound manner within 60 days by the respective state authorities on a single window clearance system. So this is very important for ease of doing the business. RVSF will be provided with the connectivity to Vahan database, and they will be authorized to make entries regarding the scrapping of the vehicles and the issuance of the certificate of deposit. This certificate of deposit, we are proposing it will be a tradable certificate, and it will depend upon the incentives provided by the states, and that will make this certificate very attractive. The RVSF will also be provided the access to the database of the stolen vehicle of NCRB through Vahan, and it will be the responsibility of the RVSF to check whenever a vehicle is coming for scrapping that this vehicle is a valid vehicle and it is not having some criminal activities associated with this vehicle. RVSF will be required to get the cyber security certification as they are connected to the Vahan as well as the other database of several other important portals. So RVSF will do the will take the necessary documentations from the owner as prescribed in the rule. There is a form 2 given in the rules, according to which the necessary documents will be taken from the owner of the vehicle. So as I have already told that this whole process is IT driven. So RVSF of any state can scrap the vehicle of any state. As far as the area regarding the RVSF is concerned, we have prescribed that it should have the adequate area in the orange category zone, and it will abide by the various acts, rules prescribed by the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, CPCB guidelines for environmentally sound management of end-of-life vehicles, AIS 129, and the related norms related to health, safety, and the labor. Scrapping yard will also accredit themselves with the latest version of the quality standard, such as ISO 9001 Quality Management System, ISO 14001 Environmental Management System, and ISO 45001 Occupational Health and Safety. This will be required within 12 months of the commencement of their operation. In case RVSF do not have adequate capability or the provisions for a responsible recycling of hazardous waste like e-waste, lead acid batteries, lithium-ion components, or for the recovery of rare earth metal, then the recycling, then such material, recycled material, are to be sold to the duly authorized recycler agencies. So there is also a audit criteria which is laid down in the rules. So these are, in a nutshell, these are the broad things which we have catered in the rules, and very soon you will see the final notification. So I will not take much time. The other important pillar is the automated testing stations. We have issued a draft notification for that also, and the final notification you will also see. I think there is a lot of traction for setting up the automated testing stations by the industry. The various details about the equipments required for such automated testing stations, the qualification of the manpower, the procedure for testing, retesting of the vehicle, and one can also go in the appeal to the respective RTO in case he is not satisfied with the test. Then the other procedures regarding the pre-registration and the final registration of the such automated testing stations, the requirement of audit, the fitness criteria as per the CMBR, various requirements for the vehicle fitness have been laid down at different places. We have tried to put all these things together for the benefit of the public. So all these things have been catered in these rules for automated testing stations, and the final notification will be out within 1 or 2 days. These are the few things I wanted to say about the scrapping policy for the benefit of listeners today. That's all from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. An honor to listen to you. And thank you so much for highlighting a lot of important points that the policy holds today. And we are looking forward to the draft of the policy to be out soon for public reading and public view. And then we will be also very happy to take the important discussions forward further in terms of executing this policy, because execution is the most important part of any policy that we make. And MRAI, even MONOSTEEL and policy times, we all are committed to support whatever level possible in the execution of such important and landmark policy. With this, if Honorable Minister's office is there, if we can have. So I would request Dr. Shekhar to kindly formally introduce our Honorable Minister, General V.K. Singh sir, and invite him to deliver his inaugural address.
Thank you, Akram. Thanks to the previous speakers, Sanjay Mehta and Paresh Goyal. It was very nice to have an association and then the government coming out with a formal notification by tomorrow day after, which is the best day for any such event to take place. And for it to have a chief guest like General V.K. Singh is a Sone pe Suhaga. So it's nice to have General Singh because today he's an ex-army man. He was in Minister of External Affairs and now he is in Minister of Road and Transport. And he works with the heart. Wherever he goes, he gets a footprint on whatever the ministry is doing and however it is progressing. So let me have the honor of inviting him as a chief guest, not to take too much time. We are all very eager to listen to you, General V.K. Singh, to give his chief guest token of letter. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shekhar. I hope you can all hear me.
We can hear you.
It's important to find out, lest you keep speaking and people don't hear you at all.
That's really.
It's good to be talking about a very important subject, and I'm very happy that Policy Times have organized this event because this is something which has been talked of, but I think has been left untouched for many, many years. Last, let's say, about 10 to 20 years at various places, whether it was European countries, whether it was Japan, whether it was China, whether it was South Korea, they all have had a policy for scrapping vehicles. Some of you who have been abroad would have also seen in some of the countries, there's stacks of vehicles which have been crushed. They don't know what to do about it. So in our case, this has become an informal sector. What they do with the vehicles, one actually doesn't know, but they do extract certain things and leave the whole thing. And therefore, there was a need for a consolidated policy framework for the vehicle owners to scrap their vehicles, as well as to ensure that it is well-organized system. Now, there are actually, when you look at the automobile industry, whether it is cars, whether it is trucks, you have vehicles of various age groups. Older the vehicle, more polluting and dangerous it is. Newer the vehicle, it comes with later technologies, it is less polluting, and therefore it is much better in terms of economy than the older vehicle. So there was a requirement to phase out these older vehicles, the unsafe vehicles, and have a policy by which we could scrap these in a scientific manner. So this particular policy, which has been put down in very simple terms, it is ensured that this policy is such that it does not cause any issues or any roadblocks, and everything is put in a time-bound manner so that people do not have difficulty. And hence, I think this is one of those policies which will, over a period of time, become very, very popular. We have also ensured that suitable measures have been incorporated in the policy, where a person doesn't have to look up or on the left and right. He doesn't have to keep running to a particular agency. But the systems have been made simple. Similarly, where the scrapping establishments have to be set up, even that has been made simple, so that you don't have a person applying and then waiting for next 5 years for the scrapping yard to come. Now, what we are also looking at is that there is a byproduct of this scrap. And the byproduct is, if you are taking out dangerous vehicles which are unfit, which are polluting, which have done, let's say, a certain lifespan, then there is a need that when this void is created by the scrapping, the automobile industry gets a boost automatically, because they'll be producing more vehicles, they'll be including new technology. You're all aware that today, because of pollution, you are looking at different kind of fuel which are non-polluting, whether it is LPG, whether it is CNG, whether we go for battery operated on lithium technology, or what India is already working on, the hydrogen technology, so that you can have cleaner fuel, less polluting, and you can get gains which are much more than any other fuel can give. So if that be the case, over a period of time, this need for scrapping will only grow. And when it grows, you must have a system ready to take care of this. Take your mind to ship scrapping. We have had one of the world's largest ship scrapping yards on the Gujarat coast. What was the advantage of this? The ships came, there are many people who got employed. You took out all good parts which could be utilized for something or the other. Rest of the things became scrap and could be melted and used for something else. And if I was to tell you that we import almost 6.5 metric tons of scrap steel at a cost of almost 23,000 crores. Now, when you start scrapping vehicles, you will also get precious scrap which can be utilized for other things. In addition, you will also get certain rare earth materials which are used in various technologies in the vehicles. And these will also boost the economic sector, where you don't have to import these things and they can be reutilized, recycled into the auto industry. The problem in the policy was initially, how do you create incentives? Because you must have both incentives and disincentives. Otherwise, people start looking at it as something which has been, they've been forced to do. It must become attractive. And therefore, what we have said is that scrapping criteria is not based on age, but it
Recording
is
in progress.
It is based on how fit the vehicle is. And therefore, our first need was to work out how will fitness be tested. We are, as part of this policy, as per our implementation, we want to put up scientifically and technologically advanced fitness centers where people will not have any problem of going and getting tested, whether the vehicle is registered in J&K and it is getting tested in Tamil Nadu, or it is registered in Nagaland and it is being tested in Gujarat. We want to ensure that the fitness centers cater for this particular aspect and their decision will be final. The system will be absolutely uncorruptible. It will be based on technology so that nobody has any doubts. And there are no manual manipulations that take place which will create the typical pitfalls where recommendations in terms of money are required. We want to obliterate such a thing totally. We also want to have certain incentives to be given to vehicle manufacturers and vehicle scrapping units. And we will give them incentives in the form of waivers in the registration fee, reduction in road taxes for new vehicles purchased against scrapping old vehicles, so that there is a decrease in price when he buys a new vehicle. And he gets incentivized to take newer technology and utilize it. We have also looked at what happens when a person doesn't want to scrap a very old vehicle. Now you must create certain incentives. So for that, we have said that there will be an increase in registration charges and the fitness testing charges, as well as the fitness certificate fees, so that there is a certain amount of burden felt when a person is using a very old vehicle. Some people ask this question, what happens to heritage vehicles? The heritage vehicle policy is totally separate. We don't want to, this is for all other vehicles. But the heritage issues are concerned, they are looked at in a different manner altogether. Now, the states also, we have recommended that they can put a green tax on older vehicles because they're more polluting. So where an old vehicle is concerned, it will become more costly to run an old vehicle as compared to a newer vehicle, and therefore there'll be incentive to buy a new vehicle. And if the road tax and the registration fee incentives are there, I think it becomes fairly a good bargain to dump the old vehicle into scrap yard and go for a new vehicle. The calculations which Paresh and his team did was that if you were to use a 15-year-old car and compare it with a new car, the benefit scrapping would result in a saving of up to 1.5 lakhs for a 5-year cycle. Similarly, if it was a new truck, then you would save probably 8 lakhs in 5 years. So there is a suitable benefit that is available to the people who want to buy a new vehicle. And we feel that all these incentives and disincentives will allow people, will motivate people, and will contribute towards making this policy of scrapping vehicles much more attractive. Now, the entire process, we want to, whether it is testing, whether it is scrapping, we want to make it seamless. We want to have everything which is driven by technology to ensure that there is no problem. And we want to make everything time-bound. We are graduating to a system where we are saying it will be done in so many days. If it is not done, it will be deemed that it is done and procedure can move forward, so that everybody becomes more responsible. It is not that you just hold up the file and say, okay, I'm not clearing it. If it doesn't get cleared in the required time, it will be deemed that it has already been done. The onus then rests on the people who are clearing that file. So I think we are trying to ensure that there is accountability and responsibility both for people who are seeking permission as well as people who are giving permission. Now, the biggest benefit, I think, would be in scientific scrapping. Like I said earlier, till now it was an unorganized sector. The people involved in it were low technology with hardly any technical knowledge of the things that they were doing. And we feel that formalization of scrapping in a scientific manner will ensure that even this unorganized sector gets slowly amalgamated into the formalized sector. They will also get better jobs, they'll get better money, and they'll be able to imbibe technology, which will actually help them in growing up. When we looked at the recycling rates, in India, the recycling rates have been very low. We have been below 70. While in the world, there are some areas where it is almost 90%. And we feel that combined energy recovery, the target rate should reach up to 95%. So we are looking at ensuring that this becomes beneficial to the country, becomes beneficial to people who scrap, becomes beneficial to the user who wants to buy a new car and scrap the old vehicle, so that everybody gets mutually benefited. A doubt that arises in some people's mind is, would these scrapping units be eco-friendly? Yes, they would be. When you set up a scrapping unit, you have to go through all the norms which are laid down for pollution control. You have to go through all the norms which will ensure that environment is taken into account when you extract things, so that no such criteria which will create pollution or environmental degradation is allowed to take roots, and the policy ensures that this will be a sine qua non for whatever scrapping unit comes up. And mind you, these have been, if you have gone through our policy thing, which has been put down in very simple terms, we have said, when you set up a unit, you can set it up in these, this much of time, this much of space is required for so many vehicles, and you will, machinery, etc., must be top class so that you can extract economically and everything is managed properly. But you require necessary pollution and environmental permissions from the required authorities so that you can run this particular unit properly. Now, we are also, like I said, looking at integration of the informal and the formal sector. We are asking smaller players to get involved in it. We're asking cooperatives to be formed so that it doesn't become a preserve or some big players. It must percolate into a strata of society where more employment can be created, more income can be generated, and you have more number of players so that there's much more competition. We also feel that the people who are presently involved, they'll probably require suitable training when they get into the formal sector. And therefore, this issue is also being addressed so that we are able to, when we absorb this informal sector, it comes up in skills to the level at which the requirement exists in today's modern scrapping unit. The MSTC will also work towards creating an e-commerce platform for buying and selling of reusable spare parts, and on behalf of the authorized scrapping units, we are also looking at NEML, the NSDX e-Market Limited, which has expressed interest in setting up end-of-life marketplace for trading in certificate of deposit and reusable components. And I think interest in setting up end-of-life market 2.5 years or so, the ecosystem will start coming up. And once the ecosystem comes up, then automatically things become cheaper, things become better, and technology can be imbibed in a proper manner so that things can move at what is the visualization. The policy is out, the various implementation rules are being made, like Paresh said so, and I'm sure that very soon we would have everything in place. There are a lot of people who already started expressing interest in setting up scrapping units, and I think this is a step in the right direction so that we can control pollution, we can ensure that the industry gets a boost, and we can ensure that people ultimately benefit. With this, I've said what was required for the policy. If there is anything else that you would like to know, I'm sure we would be able to fill you in with people from our ministry in form of Paresh, who is already there, and they would be able to ensure that no doubts on this policy are allowed to go unaddressed. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Honorable Minister. It's such an honor to have you as chief guest in our program today. As always, you have been very humble and very open in terms of sharing your ideas, sharing your opinions, and also interacting with various stakeholders that we try to bring in our platform. and it's really an honor. So you have highlighted a lot of areas. You have actually very articulately and nicely presented the whole policy in a very simple layman word, which I think not only just industry, but a very layman of India can understand. The highlight that you focused about the fitness centers. You emphasized on the objective of having more and more fitness centers. And then you also talked about the benefits of the policy for various stakeholders, not just industry, but also others, which was very nice. Then also you highlighted about the relevance or importance of training. So this is a very important shift. I mean, this policy will be a landmark kind of a platform or intervention in the automobile sector from the big informal sector getting slowly converted into the formal one. And that transition has always been very disruptive and difficult. So it brings some amount of uncomfortability between different stakeholders. Hence, our objective would be, let us cooperate and collaborate so that any operation is always painful. Hence, we need to see it how it can be benefited or it can be brought into benefit for different stakeholders. There are 4%. I am now a little relaxed because once Honorable Minister has spoken, the big job is done. 4 areas, as I see, are the focus. There are a lot of questions which are coming, as Honorable Minister also highlighted or said in the end, all the queries and questions from the industry members or recycling industry members coming, we will collate them and we will be extremely happy to give this to the Paresh sir's office so that the questions can be addressed, questions can be answered in a very structured way so that we achieve the benefits. There are 4 aspects I see in the entire discussion. Sustainable mobility, which is again General V.K. Singh, Honorable Minister sir's interesting area. He has been always emphasizing on the concept of sustainable mobility. When we met last time, he emphasized how hydrogen fuel car or e-vehicle can be the next stage, not e-vehicle, hydrogen fuel car can be the next stage and further can be achieved in that direction. The second is the recycling sector. That is again a huge sector. That what are the benefits and how the recycling sector can be a 100% formal sector would be very interesting to see. And Sanjay Bhai Mehta ji and many other such big players who are working day and night in terms of building India's recycling sector to be the world class. And MONOSTEEL, Tejas Bhai Mehta and Bhupat Bhai Mehta ji are working, Bhupat Bhai Shah ji are working relentlessly on that line. The third is what shift the automobile sector is going to take. It will be a very interesting because automobile sector, from as Honorable Minister also highlighted slightly, we will be moving aggressively towards EV and other mode of transport. Hence, how this policy can be an incentive towards this transition would be very interesting to see. And the final one is definitely the environment. So what kind of benefits we achieve for our future generation in terms of the environment protection. I will quickly go to another, I will request Honorable Minister sir, wherever time you have, kindly be with us. I will now request and invite again a very important policy influencer, Shri Prashant K. Banerjee sir. I have worked with him at CII and the Siam platforms. I know the kind of work that he has been leading, representing the automobile sector and in the field of policy making. So, Mr. Banerjee, over to you for your reflection on the policy that has been introduced.
Indeed, it's a privilege to be in this platform on behalf of Siam. A big bang reform. Vehicle scrappage policy edifice is not created in a day, as Honorable General Dr. V.K. Singh mentioned. In 1998, Dr. Mashelkar, when there was a crisis of a sort in Delhi on pollution, the auto fuel policy was created, in which one of the recommendations was fleet modernization vehicle scrappage policy. Since then, it has taken 23 years. I have been involved in policy framework with Ministry of Road Transport for the last 33 years. And as Honorable General Dr. V.K. Singh mentioned, last 7 years has been actually a defining one. If many of you know that transport is in a concurrent list, state and federal has its own share of responsibility, and create a beautiful edifice of vehicle scrappage policy. A continuous, collaborative, more so consultative efforts have been put in by the ministry to get a very, very comprehensive policy which will be actually placed for implementation on the cutting edge technology. And many of you know, India is a democratic country with lots of pulls and pushes. I am just on behalf of industry, would like to immensely thank Ministry of Road Transport for their continuous resolve to ensure keeping people interest on the top. So first is people. Having taken care of people, that's the reason you will not find it's not a mandatory policy, it's a voluntary policy. Process is very important. And that's where after people, the process has been focused. AIS 129, I know Mr. Paresh has been working so closely. AIS 129 has been created in the last 8 years. Still, there are some smaller issues remain unresolved. For example, how to reuse and resell the recovered parts, what kind of quality certification we should have. So one is people, which is in the forefront of this government, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. And that's the reason the entire policy framework has been people-centric. Customer, scrap owners, collectors, OEMs, and component manufacturers. So entire ecosystem, people has been kept on the forefront. That has been followed by the process. The process has been very nicely defined. Many of you, if you don't know how much work has gone to define the process, you will get to know slowly when it unfolds. Every area has been worked very nicely with the state government, central government. The first thing which Honorable General V.K. Singh leadership has achieved is an amendment of Motor Vehicle Act 1988. What Motor Vehicle Act was there, it was not having enabling provisions to make this vehicle scrappage happen. They took so much of effort to get it passed to the Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, and then finally the first step was taken, the amendment of Motor Vehicle Act was done, which actually ensured the automated vehicle testing facility creation, what you see today in the PPP mode. So edifice of vehicle policy is not created in a day. It has taken midnight oil burned by each stakeholders. So the second point which I was talking about, the process. Then the third point is product. You know that we are in a transformational journey. The Indian, not only the automobile industry, but globally, mobility is transforming. So therefore, when we talk about product, that has also been kept in the center of the policy. Tomorrow, if the electric vehicle comes, how the lithium-ion batteries will be, recovered, how the existing vehicles, which are older vehicles, how their, leftovers, that is called ASR, will be handled. So everything is being looked after. After that, the very important is performance. Performance has not been compromised. Everywhere, if you look at RVSM guideline, if you look at CMVR notifications, if you look at AS 129, everybody has been made accountable to deliver in terms of whether it's a extended producer responsibility word you use, or I would prefer to use a shared responsibility, so that everybody is sharing this responsibility and delivery. And at the end of the day, the sustainable mobility first principle is peace. Peace at large in society means nobody's job goes away, nobody is actually in distress. So therefore, whether we talk about safety will improve, environmental benefits we will have, whether the circular economy resource efficiency will improve, government is also talking about mandating minimum level of secondary resource material to be used in the vehicle manufacturer. So that assures the MRAI and others that not only the aluminum, not only the steel, not only the plastics, minimum level of actually secondary resource material has to be put in the vehicle. So it's a big bang reform. I can go on and on to talk about how much effort has gone in, but in summary, I would like to say that it's a Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav 75th year of independence. I think I'm very proud that government has brought this policy at a right juncture. at the right time, and a shining India is ready to take and embrace the sustainable mobility. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Banerjee. It's always an honor to have you, sir. And I'm really grateful to you that since the beginning, when I invited you, you openly accepted the invitation and you joined us, considering we are a rising platform. And you also shared us in terms of building the program to the level that we are here. And that shows that your passion for the industry and also your principle as we are. I have in the frame Tejas Bhai Shahji and Bhupat Bhai Shahji. They are sitting together from the MONOSTEEL India Limited, one of the leading recyclers based in Gujarat. They have been, since the beginning, Tejas Bhai has been helping us building the program from one step to the other, putting one brick after another. I would request Tejas Bhai Shah to kindly share your remarks and reflection on the policy that we have come up.
Thank you, Akram Bhai, and all the dignitaries on and off the board. It is like a introduction of this policy by the government will change the entire ecosystem in the India drastically. Like as a recycler we see, there are lot of changes. Like currently we are running the steel units where we are morely depending on the scrap on import. So if this policy is introduced, so we'll get a good scrap from the local sources only. Like we have prepared some introduction of the company and some key guidelines to be addressed for this policy. So would like to share this with you. Akram Bhai, is it shared?
Share the screen. You have to click on the center.
Yeah, it's on shared screen only.
We can't see that. Anyway, you can continue. I will share my screen from here.
Yeah, it has
Can
come.
you see now, sir?
Yes, yes.
Now we can see, but now, yeah, you can open the presentation.
Okay. So MONOSTEEL basically is based in Gujarat, and the promoters are from the family-owned business. We are basically in the manufacturing of steel and power. So we have a sponge iron unit which is producing steel from the iron ore, billets and mild steel billets manufacturing unit, where we are using a lot of scrap importing from the outside India currently. We also manufacture TMT bars, and we have these hot rolling steel mills.
Your PPT is not visible.
PPT is not visible?
No, please. Or if you want, I can share it. Please go
Yeah,
on.
please kindly.
You go on with your speech, please.
Okay, is it visible now?
Yeah, we can see that.
Okay. So actually we are manufacturing these TMT bars in Gandhidham. So the product is conforming to all many standards. We are regularly exporting this, and we feel that by introduction of this policy, it will change entire production system in the India for all the recyclers. So how this policy will be favorable to all the Indian economy? Like with this vehicle scrappage policy, which is announced by government of India, will have a very much positive impact on the Gujarat's economy, as we have a ship recycling industry here, and vehicle ownership in India, Gujarat is also creating economy system for the vehicle scrapping. Gujarat has one of the highest vehicle ownership rate in the country, which around 450 vehicles every 1,000 people. So the number of registered vehicle over 15-year-old is estimated at over 450 only in Gujarat, Rajasthan and Maharashtra, thereby ensuring a minimum scale of operation for every vehicle scrapping unit. Like suppose if we plan to have such vehicle facility in Bhavnagar, so due to the well-established ship recycling facility here, we have other ecosystem already developed, and this hazardous waste landfill system, enviro monitoring system, all the ecosystem of downstream are already available. So this can optimize the additional investment to set up initially this vehicle scrappage facility as well as AVSF in Bhavnagar. So already existing a market of recycling material and components from vehicle scrapping centers, as well as potential investor based of setting up large scale vehicle scrapping center, which promotes the concept of circular economy, and it reduces the import dependency on the existing recyclers. So like what we are planning for developing this AVSF, we plan for developing this AVSF with complying all the CPCB or state pollution control guidelines. We have already signed the MOU with government of Gujarat, and MOU is already being signed for the development of AVSF and ATS. So our AVSF, what we are planning, which will having this depolluting, de-risking, dismantling and systems in a place, so which will help to sustainable this recycling of this vehicle. And also we are planning to develop the AVSF outside Gujarat as well. Some of the key salient features which we want to address to minister and policy maker through this platform, like if it can be introduced in this policy, so it will have a good impact on implementation of the same. Like if it can be considered as a preferred startup category, or the AVSF people who are doing this in an organized manner can be incentivized by automobile OEM under EPR scheme. So EPR scheme is just an extended producer's responsibility scheme, which is already in place for plastic manufacturers. So suppose EPR is introduced for this vehicle scrapping also, so it is more sustainable for the AVSF to survive in compared to the unorganized market. Also, if we get some sustainable support from the ministry, like introduction of this policy will reduce lot of carbon emission compared to what is existingly doing by the old vehicle. So some mechanism like MEIS, where if we are exporting something and government is incentivizing, or we are getting a duty drawback, so some mechanism can be introduced, or some incentives can be provided to the recyclers, so it will be more easy for them to sustain compared to the unorganized people. Also, like recycling of the entire commodity, not restricting to the vehicle scrapping, but other component, other electrical component can be recycled in the same operation under one roof, can also boost this industry in a longer run. Suppose if we are inviting some foreign collaborator, so if some incentives are given to the foreign collaborator from the government, so it will boost this in a longer way. So I thanks all the policy request all the stakeholders to be part of this, and I thank Minister Sir and all the honorable people to be part of this event, and I especially thanks to Akram Bhai and all his team to give us a chance to highlight our points and represent ourselves for this event. Thank you very much. I pass it to you, Akram.
Thank you so much, Tejas Bhai Shah, for sharing your views. I think a couple of recommendation suggestions you have suggested will be very, very meaningful from the recyclers' point of view. And MONOSTEEL, one of the leading recyclers in Gujarat, and also signing MOU with the government in terms of building the first ASVP can be a role model for the whole country. You're recycling more than 200 tons every month, which shows a huge kind of potential in the sector, can be a landmark. So with this, we have two more eminent speakers from the automobile sector and recycling sector. I will invite one by one to close our inaugural session. I want to invite Shri S.K. Mittal ji, who is the chairman of a leading AIMTC one of the leading All India Motor Transport Congress. Mr. Mittal, over to you for a quick 3 to 4 minutes remarks.
Thank you. I'm audible?
Yeah, you are.
Yeah. Honorable Minister of States, Ministry of Road Transport and Highways and Civil Aviation, Donald Dr. V.K. Singh, PVSM, PVSM, YSM retired, and distinguished speakers, participants, and organizers, along with Sri Prash Kumar Goyal, Director Transport and IC, Sri Subhendu J. Sinha, Advisor Infrastructure Connectivity, Electric Mobility, Niti Aayog, and Sri Akhilesh Srivastava, Gold Medalist, Artificial Intelligence, Truck Driver Road Safety 2020, with the specialty designing IT-enabled management, solution to simplify the complicated task, and Sri Banerjee from Sham. Sir, I'm S.K. Mittal, Chairman of All India Motor Transport Congress, which is an apex body of commercial vehicle operators of all segment, cargoes and passengers on pan-India basis. It is an umbrella body of states, district, taluk, state level association, unions, federation, and representing the interest of this important sector since 1936. The road transport of India is the backbone of the economy, lifeline of the nation, and an essential services provider, and most important link of the supply chain by virtue of first and last mile connectivity. It is one of the highest taxpayer employment generator, contributing about 3.1% of GDP. As regards the subject, the sustainability and mobility and supply chain of light of imminent vehicle scrapping policy, there is a large scope of improvement and requires a holistic review of taking care of all affected segments, livelihoods, financial implications, etc. The all affected parties must be taken into confidence before its final rollout. All stakeholders, especially the affected ones, should be consulted to assess the fallout and their views incorporated for a successful rollout. The current policy must not be seen through a myopic lens, rather it should be faster, win-win situation for all. We hope and wish that this conference will throw up enough thought-provoking issue that the policymakers will give careful attention and tweak or the supplement of the proposed policy accordingly. The process of intent, comment, and contain pollution through this policy is well taken, but it needs to be sincerely pondered as on what social economic cost this policy is being rolled out and how it is going to impact the middle class people financially and livelihood of self-employed people. We submit the pollution control is sacrosanct. The real cause of pollution need to be looked into alternative strategy like a retrofitment of engines and pumps, adaptation of clean fuel technology to be adopted. Fossil fuel dependence should be phased out in time-bound manner. I thank the organizer for the opportunity given to us for sharing our views on this platform. We will share our industry's view point in details in the upcoming sessions.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for briefly sharing about your association's work and profile, and also talking about that. With this, formally we come to the end of our inaugural session for Paresh Goyal sir and for our Honorable Minister. I just want to show that we have two important sessions now. One is industry session, the other is policy implementation session that we have taken after the inaugural session. And we have, unfortunately, Sudhendra sir will not be able to join. So we have Arindam Lahidi sir from the Automotive Skill Development Council sharing the skill, because Honorable Minister talked about the skilling part of it, or training part of it. So Arindam sir would be talking about the skilling side of it. Shubika Sardana would be joining us from Karni. She would be giving a little more perspective about the policy, as Karni has been working extensively in this field since long, helping the ministry further. We have Ashish Bhagraji, who is the CEO of Mahindra MSTC. Sero is a leading future organization, which will be a recycling organization, which is developing a unique platform. We will have from Ashok Leyland, Dr. Kanak. He will be joining us in the next session. Mr. Samir Malhotra, the director and CEO of Shriram Automall, again, a second-hand car and commercial vehicle, platform, will be sharing their perspective. We have one recycler, Devarta Banerjee, and from Automotive Research Association of India, ARAI, Dr. Sushil Ramdasi will be in the next session. The final session of the evening is on policy opportunities, circularity and implementation issues. We have some eminent personalities and association leaders like Saurashtra Chamber of Commerce and Industries, President Kirit Bhai Soniji, who has been working on this policy since the beginning. He will be talking. With him, we'll have All India Automobile Workshop Association, Mr. Vikrant Mohanji, who are also again working on the recycling, on the repairing and this part of it. Haresh Parmarji would be the Honorary Secretary of Ship Recycling Industry Association, will be sharing it. And from MRAI, we will have Amar Singhji. And we also have Mr. Osjad Sheikh, who is the General Manager of Andhra Pradesh Maritime Board, who has some exciting, interventions or policy or initiatives they are taking based on this vehicle scrap policy. We will have from the startup domain, Dr. Tausif Malik will be sharing their perspective of how we can promote entrepreneurship and startups in this domain. So thank you. It is absolutely an honor to have Honorable Minister and Paresh Goyal sir for your kind remarks and also sharing your view. With this, we move to our next session. I invite the chairman of the next session, Mr. Akhilesh Srivastava sir. So I will request Akhilesh sir, if you are here, to come on camera. And I also invite Shubika. Shubika, welcome. Wonderful to have you. And I think, Akhilesh sir, if you can unmute yourself, I will make you co-host. Yeah, so can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Welcome, sir. Chairman of our next session, I invite Subika, the associate at Karni, joining us now. Akhilesh sir, I will introduce quickly. Let me add you in the frame. And Samir Malhotra ji is here. Welcome, Samir ji. Please unmute yourself. I'll make you.
Thank you.
Just a quick word on our chairman of the show, Mr. Shri Akhilesh Srivastava is a globally renowned digital technology leader and smart mobility expert. He has been among the 51 most impactful global leaders of smart city, and he has done excellent contribution in the field of smart mobility. He headed the implementation of India's most successful digital platform, FASTag, which we all are part of recently, the electronic toll collection system, which revolutionized the Indian highway and logistics sector with over 100 crore rupees toll collection every day. He is a gold medalist with engineering degree with MBA in IT, and also done his global MBA from ISB as well as Wharton and Keller Business Schools. He is an eloquent speaker, prolific writer. He has recently authored a book who will now share. So he has worked in the smart mobility segment since long. I will request Dr. Shri Akhilesh Srivastava sir kindly take over the session. A brief intro, and in the meantime, I'll just add the speakers.
Thank you very much, Akram, for a nice introduction to me. It's a common thing which I have been doing, whatever given as a government servant. Very recently, I moved from the NHAI, where I was doing the work you said, and now more focusing on the mobility sector and more focusing on one of the prominent cause, which is the road safety. Which is killing a lot of people in India, and we unfortunately lead in this road. Fatality, the accidents on the highways, 150,000, 1.5 lakh roughly in a year. That's officially recorded. So these are so what now I'm thinking as a second inning is to put technology into this domain, and that's why I now coined the word road safety 2.0. It's a more data-driven, technology-driven domain. And if we can reduce the fatality, bring down as much as possible, because I have been speaking to Honorable Minister, both Sri Nitin Gadkari sir and our Minister of State, Honorable General V.K. Singh, I was listening in. So they are very clear, and they want that road safety should be given a due importance, because very human and required thing. So anyway, that's the journey which I am taking on. Parallelly, I'm very happy and thankful that you are taken this topic today, which is very relevant and so time that the government is likely to come with this policy, this draft policy or scrappage policy already in the domain for the comments, and you brought everyone on the single platform chaired by Honorable Minister to put across their views. Let me tell you, this scrappage policy is going to be a game changer, both for the mobility industry as well as for the the automobile industry, as well as for the environment, because it's going to be the sustainable environment, ultimately the less pollution and other things. Enough has been said by the experts over there, and very aptly given direction was given by Honorable Minister on this, that what is the policy, what are the benefits to the different stakeholders, to the what is to the automobile industry, to the scrapping centers and fitness centers. So they're all integrated on a different platforms, and effectively it will be applicable from 1st of April 2023 for the government, and 24 from the next for the all other vehicles, and many incentives has been announced. But let me touch a different aspect today. What has been the outcome when this policy was introduced in other countries? For example, I will share this policy of scrappage policy was introduced in United Kingdom in 2019 in UK. And that time they announced that they will be giving roughly £2,000 as a cash incentive for the vehicles which come for the scrappage, and they can use this money to buy new vehicles. You will be surprised that the entire scheme was so popular that within no time that the money which they have kept for this got finished, and then the government has to stop it, and then it became automatically going. Same thing happened with the United States. Even more, the support of people and the industry was so high. In UK, out of these 2,000 pounds, £1,000 was given by the government, and another £1,000 was borne by the automobile manufacturers, which they increase depending on the situation as well. But in the US, they introduced this policy on 1st July 2009. And they said that this will be applicable from 24th July for some time. And the incentive which they had announced that time was something around 2,000 to 2,500 US dollars. And the money which they kept, this money got exhausted within a week time itself. It was almost $1 billion US. So many vehicles came that they immediately it got finished. Then they had to request the government. I mean, government got another incentive to this. They gave 2 billion more, and therefore it could be carried out for so many vehicles with this. So, I mean, in nutshell, what I'm trying to say, this is a very attractive policy. It gives a lot of value addition to the entire ecosystem, all stakeholders put together. For example, say how is going to help to the vehicle manufacturers. Firstly, the more vehicles will be sold. The old vehicles, once it is scrapped, then the new vehicles will be increasing their business directly. Second, what is the cost of vehicle was lesser because they can get the recycled material or the scrappage material and use it for so many, as the Honorable Minister was rightly saying that around 89 to 90% of the material which we generally import from the outside will be available here. So that will bring down the cost of the vehicle being manufactured now, and that will lead to the benefit of the vehicle purchaser or the common citizens who are going to buy this. Apart from this, is going to generate a lot of employment. It's going to create another ecosystem in the economy of the circular economy, where and these things are ultimately benefiting the environment because of lesser carbon emission and the polluted vehicles getting out of the road. So nutshell, it's going to be a gain for the entire ecosystem and everyone. But a lot will depend how we are implementing this, how we are going to take it forward, how people are skilled, how robust our platforms. See, your Vahan database where these fitness centers are being tagged. This fitness center should be I mean, they should be beyond, I mean, they should be totally acceptable. The people should not raise doubt on this. There should be a mechanism how right now there is a mechanism I could see in the policy that if somebody is not happy with the fitness certificate, they can appeal to the RTO. So these things, it should be totally transparent. People should not be like that. I mean, it should be like, there should not be any question raised on this. Right? It should be totally IT driven. Human interference will be as minimum as possible. Similarly, the vehicle scrappers, that center should be immediately and as quickly as possible it should be done. I understand there is one big I mean, scrapping center is being made in Greater Noida, and 5 more are under different stages of completion. These are very massive and big scrapping centers. More such centers should come, considering the big geographical and the reach of the country. Similarly, more fitness centers, good skilled person should also be required. So overall, is going to be a very good game, and we are going to we are having a eminent panelists who are here, who are going to give their opinion and the different domains, how they are going to take it forward. So without wasting much time, I will be requesting Mr. Arindam Lahiri or Akram, you can take it forward from here and you can tell them how to proceed.
Okay. Yeah. No, sir, you can go on. So Mr. Arindam Lahiri heads the most important portfolio at the government. Is the Chief Executive Officer of Automotive Skill Development Council. Honorable Minister has highlighted the importance of skilling and training in this. So I'd be extremely interested to know from Mr. Lahiri how the skill development and training can work and can contribute in implementing and executing the policy that we are coming up with, and your experience from the automotive sector.
Hi, good afternoon to all of you. And I think the stage is very well set. As Mr. Srivastava has already shared the entire spectrum and perspective for this particular panel. Skill development is one of the most challenging elements in terms of doing something new, because there's a lot of unknown factor about people who are going to join this particular segment of the industry. And therefore, the automotive industry in general has been going through a lot of changes. both in terms of the policy changes, the policy interventions that has been there around emission safety, and now, of course, scrappage is a big policy initiative, and I think it's in line with the global building a global industry based out of India, and automotive can surely live up to that expectation. The other side has been, of course, the technology piece of it, where we are seeing constant changes which are happening due to addition of electronics and the use of various energy sources, right from batteries to other alternate fuels, ethanol blending of the existing fossil fuel, which is leading to certain changes in the construction of the vehicle and how the vehicle parts are to be used. So we are in the midst of, I would say, a big transformation. And if this transformation has to be managed and managed well, then of course we need the younger population who are aiming to join the industry to be well equipped and well skilled, essentially in terms of their competencies to deal with this kind of a transformation. The second piece is, of course, with the existing manpower in the industry who have been used to a certain way of working and certain skills that has been very useful. Automotive industry largely has been known to be a mechanical industry, with a lot of metal parts and moving parts. And I think we've pretty well mastered that art over the past few decades. However, suddenly we find ourselves of not much use because, while the vehicle still moves, what makes it move doesn't move at all. I mean, these are stationary electronics, and it's almost like having a mobile computer as today's cars are. So in that context, I think this is a great initiative by the government of India to have announced a national policy on this. We need to ensure that we have a cleaner environment for the futures while we are going for the electrification. Discontinuity of the earlier polluting vehicles is a must, and we need to have this as a very structured industry. On a personal note, I have always lived in Delhi, very close to Mayapuri, which is considered to be the heart of the scrapping of vehicles, and I've always seen lots of scrap in 20 years that I had lived in that area as to why shouldn't we be having the organized scrapyards as you typically see in Europe or in the US. And I think I'm very happy that at least in my lifetime I can surely hope to see that transformation happening. Now that brings to a very important question as to who are the people who are going to be manning these or being employed in this kind of environment. As we prepare to formulate training modules, training programs around this industry, we basically are trying to identify the specific needs in terms of various operational flow that the vehicle will go through while it is getting scrapped. So one of the first phases is, of course, the dismantling of the vehicle, of course, the fitness testing of the vehicle. And I'm also very happy to see that the policy does talk about automated fitness testing centers, which will, take care of a lot of manual interventions, which can otherwise serve at cross purpose for various reasons. So using technology to that perspective, I think will be very useful. But at the same time, when we use this technology, we need to ensure that there are people who can handle this technology well, and therefore training people to handle this automated testing facilities to fitness centers, basically to give a fitness output. Is very critical, and we are currently in that exact process when we are looking at even the basic servicing of vehicles. We are using a lot of diagnostic software and tools around the vehicle servicing, and we still find that there's a whole lot of manual override that the earlier generation service mechanics would typically find reasons to do and not follow the technology part of it. Having said that, I think the young workforce will find it very interesting if we make this kind of a facility like the one that we are talking about in Greater Noida. And I know that there are a few more in the pipeline and under discussions. We must make them also very employee friendly in terms of people aspiring to work for such workplaces. Today, please remember, we are in a talent war where we have to kind of essentially, work against other competing areas which are considered to be much aspirational. So in today's context, in the Indian side, I would say IT, telecom, these are considered to be very attractive propositions for the youngsters to get into. So we need to ensure that we are building these facilities which can make them quite attracted. I would also I will also request some of these facility owners to, if we can work collaboratively to ensure that the youngsters, which are people who are currently studying in school or currently studying in, colleges, how can we ensure that we have a constant visits planned to these facilities, which kind of attracts them? The reason I came into automotive industry personally was from a visit that I had of Hindustan Motors facility at that point in time, which was where the aspiration got created as a youngster. And I think today the industry needs to open its doors to ensure that the younger mind finds it attractive enough to get into these facilities. And we'll surely work closely with the industry to ensure that we build programs, training facilities, which can actually feed them with the kind of manpower that they would need to manage these facilities. I'll stop here at this point and we'll be happy to take further questions as we go along. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Arindam sir, for sharing your perspective from that aspect. I'll come to Shubhika. Shubhika Sardana is associate at Carney. Carney has been working with the ministry since long in terms of, and since last, I think, couple of years, they have been dedicatedly, consistently, working in terms of drafting the policy and also organizing a lot of stakeholder consultations to take views, perspectives from different stakeholders to enrich the policy so that it addresses all the queries of different stakeholders. So I would request Shubhika to give a different perspective on the policy in addition to Honorable Minister and Paresh Goyal, our director, has highlighted. Shubhika, over to you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I will just share my screen. Allow me a moment. All right, so a very, very good evening to Honorable Minister of State, Ministry of Road Transport, Highway and Civil Aviation, Government of India, General V.K. Singh, PVSM, AVSM, and all other dignitaries who are present in today's session. It's my honor to present today amongst all the stakeholders who are here. Arindamji, thank you for setting the stage. I think it definitely talks about a lot of relevant points pertaining to the policy, and I will actually take the discussion forward from there. So what I wanted to focus on today was sorry, there are some marks on my screen. All right, so regarding the impact of the voluntary vehicle fleet modernization policy. Now, as we mentioned and as we've discussed, what we see is that the policy is multidimensional in the kind of benefits it offers. There are benefits that we know it offers to the common man and also to the economy. Benefits to the common man include how it will help in reducing the pollution in the environment, how the common man can also, by implementing and using the benefits of the policy, can improve and have a lower cost of managing his vehicle, maintaining his vehicle, and improving fuel efficiency. Over and above this, there's also an increased vehicular safety that the policy can offer. When we speak of the economy, one of the key focus area that's also, I think, been discussed extensively is the formalization and consolidation of the currently informal and fragmented vehicle scrappage industry that we have. As I mentioned, that as we know in Mayapuri, and for the last so many years, that has been the go-to market for when it comes to scrapping the vehicles. However, with this policy, the idea is, can we consolidate that industry? Can we formalize it? Can we bring all those players in the mainstream economy or not? Second key benefit is boosting the availability of low-cost raw materials, especially for automotive, steel, and electronics industry in the country. And the another key benefit that the auto sector will get is through the impetus the policy will provide in terms of new vehicle sales and also generating employment. I'll touch upon all of these points in a little bit greater detail now. Speaking of more details of the common benefits to the common man, as I mentioned, that the policy will help reducing the pollution in the environment. But what is we've estimated what could be that impact on the environment. What we observe is that through our analysis, we've seen that if we transition from a pre-BS vehicle to a BS6 vehicle, we can reduce the emissions to about 15 to 20%. This is because using an old truck, bus, or trailer, or an old car taxi, which is on the pre-BS emission norms, could actually equivalent to using 14 new and 11 new trucks and cars respectively. So that's the quantum of emission reduction that we can potentially achieve if the policy is implemented. And all of these older vehicles, which we estimate are greater than 1 crore, which are reaching their end of life, which have reached end of life as of today, actually get scrapped through the scrapping yards. Then what we also see, as I mentioned, from the common man, that if the common man uses the policy and also takes the benefit of the policy, as Shri Paresh Goyal sir would have mentioned in his discussion, that there are multiple benefits that are attached to someone who wants to trade his old car for a new car. We've estimated that benefit could be in the tune of 15 to 20%. We did an analysis for switching a Swift Desire to a car in the category of 8 lakhs, and we see that the value that a person could get could be to the tune of 1,28,000. And over and above this, there is a value of safety which we can't put really a price on. So that is overall like the benefit that we are seeing for the common man through this policy. Moving further, now if I speak of the benefits for the economy, as I mentioned, the key benefit that I want to focus on today, and given that there are some very key players from the vehicle scrappage industry today, is the formalization and consolidation of this industry. What is the target? What is the policy focusing on? Firstly, can we move from a more unorganized setup to a more organized setup? Can the current unorganized players become a part of the bigger players that come in, and can they act as like collection centers and collection channels to the bigger players? Can the currently fragmented industry be actually consolidated and achieve economies of scale? That would be the other objective of this policy. Thirdly, what we'll also see is the value addition that scrapping adds to the economy. Currently, where does India stand, and what are the best-in-class global standards of value addition? What is the percentage of recovery that you get from scrap? What will also other benefits of the policy are the pricing, like the benefit, let's say a common man will go when he goes to Mayapuri versus let's say going to an RVSF center. The pricing that he'll get will be more transparent because it will literally be a very, very it will be there in the open, and it won't be something that he'll have to like shop around for. Lastly, the policy, of course, will ensure that the scrapping happens in a very environment-friendly manner. There are policies, the CPCP, all the RVSF facilities are required to follow CPCP guidelines when they are scrapping their vehicles. So that is another focus of the policy. I'll touch upon few of these points in the following pages. This is just basically, this page basically focuses on the current value chain for the entire vehicle scrapping industry and the fact that this is currently fairly fragmented. There are essentially three key funnels. One, it begins from collection and aggregation, dismantling and processing, and moves on to sales and consumption. The major fragmentation that we see is with the vehicle dismantlers. There are thousands and thousands of them who are doing the depollutioning and dismantling. And even for the scrappers, what we are suggesting is that there are a variety of players, both captive and non-captive players, who can get into this space and consolidate the industry. Players such as your steel manufacturers, foundries, fabricators, auto component OEMs and suppliers, specialized scrappers, and each of these will have a very strong rationale to enter this space. For example, for the steel manufacturers, it's very clear, right? There's a growing dependency on imported scrap, and of course, the price of that scrap has been going high. So it makes sense to backward integrate. For foundries, it will be a vertical integration. For auto components and OEM suppliers, they can look at becoming a responsible manufacturer by promoting a circular economy. Speaking of specialized scrap players, there is an increased demand for ferrous scrap, and they can be the providers of this increased demand. I'm sorry, Akram, I see someone like typing on the screen and there are like marks all over my presentation.
Asif, can we remove this?
Thanks a lot. Apart from that other players would be like auto OEMs. The benefit that auto OEMs would get by getting into this space is it will provide the necessary impetus for new vehicle demand. For shipwrecking companies, it will provide the necessary diversification to hedge against, let's say, an erratic supply of breakworthy ships that are coming in. And for PE funds, of course, for the access that they have to the financial capital, the deep knowledge that they have in the market. So apart from these investors, this is not an exhaustive list. There are many more investors who can explore the attractive opportunities for setting up RVSs and ATS. I'm sure Shri Paresh sir, as he would have mentioned in his discussion, what are the benefits and what are the financial metrics for an RVS or an ATS to enter the market, that I believe has already been discussed. So I will not go into that. Lastly, I'll quickly, as I mentioned, would want to touch upon the high value addition which we want to target through this policy. As I mentioned, India today currently manages a 75% recycle recovery rate. But whereas if you see countries like the European Union, in the European Union, or Japan, or South Korea, or even China and USA, all of them are able to achieve a 95%. There's a big 20% gap, which we hope through the participation of the organized players in the market, we're able to bridge this gap. So that's all I had in terms of the the impact that and the participation from the recyclers in the market for implementing this policy.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much, Shubhika, for again outlining from a completely different perspective. In addition to what Sir has, Paresh Sir, and as well as our Minister has highlighted. So now I will move to our next speaker. Quickly, we'll have all our speakers spoken, and then we'll go to the basic discussion. We'll take a couple of questions, maybe from the audience, and we'll go for a discussion. So now, if Ashish Bhagra Sir is here, may I request Ashish Sir to kindly come. Ashish Sir is the CEO of, Ashish Sir, are you there?
Yeah, hi, I'm here.
Okay, let me just add this. So Ashish Sir is the, Mr. Ashish Bhagra is COO of Cero, Mahindra MSTC Recycling Private Limited, one of a kind, initiative, landmark initiative by the Mahindra Group to collaborate and get into the mainstream automakers getting into recycling. And Ashish Sir is leading and heading a couple of divisions of that. So Ashish Sir, over to you, sharing your perspective about how the future of recycling industry is going to take shape in the auto space.
Thank you, Akram. And thank you all. I'd like to start with thanking Government of India for, in a very short period, coming up with the policy and being determined that this is something which India actually needs, and realizing it and then making everybody part of the system and taking views from everybody, like one of my co-speakers also said in his address. So that's one thing which I would like to thank Government of India. I would also like to thank personally as well, for the wonderful work which has been done by Ministry of MOT on this issue. I remember interacting with the Ministry of MOT and including Minister for Road and Highways, Mr. Nitin Gadkari, number of times on this issue for the last 4 years now. And happy to learn that the policy has been announced, but we are yet to see what the draft policy which has been drafted and what is it in store for ATS as well as for RVSFs. Having said that, most of the colleagues and the co-speakers have covered most of the points. So there is nothing much where I can add value addition to, or I could give you a new information on. But then, yes, the figures of what would be if this policy is implemented, what is it in 2020 it was, and what is it going to look like in 2025? Post that, we all know that, we are adding close to about 4 to 5 million vehicles every year. So that is something which will come into the cycle. In 2020, we had registered almost 81.5 million vehicles. And in 2025, we expect this to be around 127 million vehicles, which would be registered. In the next 5 years, that means what I'm trying to say is by 2025, we'll have close to about 46, 47 million vehicles, which will go off the road. And as per the experts, they don't expect to pass the testing system which is being developed at this moment. And they would certainly come off the road. Mainly commercial vehicles, which would anyway not live the life of 15 years, which we all know. And so there's a huge market, there is a huge potential, and there is a huge requirement of RVSFs in the country. 1, 2, 5, 10, 1,500 won't work. We'll need in thousands. So this gives us a little background of about what we have as far as the numbers are concerned and what we are looking at. We all know, as has been mentioned by all of us, that we have a humongous amount of ferrous scrap consumption in India, and we are importing 6 to 7 million tons of scrap every year, which is almost equivalent to, in terms of dollars, about 2 billion of forex which is being sent out. So looking at this 46 million coming in at one go by 2025, and looking at every year 4 to 5 million vehicles being added, and 4 to 5 millions vehicle getting retired, obviously we can bridge this gap of what we are importing today. There has been number of benefits of recycling, which everybody has talked about. I just rush to them. We have natural resources conservation, the greenhouse emission reductions. We would have policies which will spur up market growth, economy growth, auto growth, avoidance of total loss if this policy is missing, import dependency reduction, environmental pollution control, and there are n number of benefits which one can think of, and we can connect it with everyday livelihood as well. The vehicle scrapping guidelines from the government has been very clear, where they have attacked it, or they have approached it, I would say, from two different point of view: disincentive, that is the disincentives for the running of old vehicles, and incentives for the purchase of new vehicles. So the thought process of MOTH has been very clear in this, that what would be your disincentives if you do not retire your vehicle on time, and what would be your incentives, as Shubhika also mentioned, as one of the colleagues mentioned. I think he calculated, I think it was Shubhika, showing that, these are the value benefits which one would achieve. The proposed discounts from OEM is yet not confirmed, but I think if everybody is looking forward to the OEMs talking about giving their share of discounts to the people who recycle their vehicles. Having said that, we all know how a RVSF needs to be designed and what all policies are going to be coming up. But there are a few teething issues which, and any RVSF would face initially. I'm sure this is going to be an evolving process. But the companies who say that, we are coming in first and we have a first mover advantage, I think they are more working towards getting the policies streamlined, experiencing it, and then working thereon. There are certain issues like this industry doesn't have a status being a startup, whether this comes under manufacturing, whether this comes under service center, whether, where is it going to land up? So I think that is for the Ministry of Industries to decide whether they are going to give it a manufacturing status, yes or no. If they give it a manufacturing status, there are allied given benefits which every states have and centers have, which can become useful to RVSFs as well. Once they have a manufacturing status, in short, they would be, we would require to have industrial incentives, which can be passed on to RVSFs also. Second is the most important aspect for an RVSF to live today is what is going to be the process of cancellation of registrations. There is no process which is available as on date. Different states, different RTOs have different perception. They work differently on it. And who will be responsible for it? Whether it will be the RTO, whether it will be the owner of the vehicle, whether it is going to be the RVSF. And if yes, how is it going to get standardized? Otherwise, there's going to be a chaos. Nobody would know how do we deregister vehicles because there is no set system. It is on the state, and the state has further given it down to the RTOs, various RTOs in various cities, and everybody's perception is different. So that's one question to ponder for all of us as to how does these RVSF survive in case of missing platform of deregistration. Secondly, a lot of auctions, if we see on the platforms which are happening from government side or from the private sector, where they say that the vehicle is to be salvaged, the vehicle is to be scrapped, but it is being sold in the market. It is being bought by people, and it is being resold in the market by refurbishing those vehicles. So there is something which a government has to look at as to how these vehicles have to be auctioned, especially from on the government portal or from the government. Whether they need to be sold only to the RVSF or anybody can bid for these vehicles, pick it up and then take it away. So these are few aspects which is very important for a RVSF to survive. And how they are going to formalize this sector, where the state administration, the transport departments are in the fray of looking from the lens that how do we amalgamate or homogenate the unorganized sector which is available or which is already there existing. What are they going to be doing? Are they just going to leave the business and go away? How are they going to be functioning? So there has to be some kind of a regulation where it should be the responsibility of private as well as the government to develop a model to get these organized sector, unorganized sector on board with them. So these are the few challenges which RVSF faces. And having said that, the benefits to the nation, I think we all have talked about it. So I'm not going to touch upon that aspect anymore. I just give you a short brief about what Mahindra MSTC Recycling Private Limited or CERO is all about. We are a joint venture company with 50-50% JV with MSTC Limited, which is a Ministry of Steel company, and with Mahindra. CERO, we are the India's first organized automobile recycling initiative, which Mahindra took along with MSTC. And we've been now in this business since 2018 end. We wish and we look at eco-friendly ways of recycling vehicles. We've been continuously evolving. We've been continuously working on it. And so that we aim to create almost zero waste in the entire process. There could be various methodologies. There could be various ways in which this RVSF or the vehicle scrapping facility can be addressed or worked upon, depending upon the numbers which one will find. We, as CERO, we wish to create a culture of zero tolerance to unscientific processes. And with this, I would like to say thank you to all of you. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ashish sir, for your, really you have flagged the issues of the whole recycling sector. Being in a formal sector, that gives you a strength in terms of sharing your views and perspectives. Really wonderful. I've noted a couple of points which are really very important points to address, and I'm sure the answers are there. It just need to communicate, need to flag in and communicate. When the policy will be out, I think we'll have the answers of most of this, but we'll be very happy to hear. Now, I will request Dr. K. Subramaniam sir. Kanak Subramaniam sir represents one of the leading and largest automaker of the country. Sir is the senior vice president at Ashok Leyland. Keeps on traveling across. A couple of days back, he was in Delhi. And again, in the evening, he's back to his city. Sir, your view on the policy for the national development and especially your sector?
Thank you, Mr. Akram. I hope everyone can hear me well. So thanks especially for conducting this panel. I think it's a very diverse group and a very interestingly diverse group at that. Also, my respects to the Honorable Minister and other dignitaries who have graced the occasion today, including all of the esteemed members on this panel. So I know only about a couple of folks here who are old friends, but I'm happy to make an acquaintance with everyone else. I am a little bit of an odd addition to this panel. So I am Senior Vice President of Ashok Leyland. I am in charge of what they call advanced engineering, which means the ones who look to the future in terms of what's coming. And very interestingly, they just hired me into Ashok Leyland from a very different background. So I am one of the non-automobile folks in this group. So, and hopefully I can ask some of the crazy questions, right? Because I have the advantage of not knowing the sector. I'm learning fast though. So very brief introduction, just to set the context. I used to be a scientist in the US working in the field of micro and nanotechnology for many, many years. That's a technology, and of course it has applications in any kind of vehicle as well, your tire pressure sensors, for example, or any other kind of sensor made using these kinds of technologies. I ran a power company as the CEO of that company for the last 11 years. So I've been actually intentionally switching fields so that I can apply across disciplines, which is the name of the game today, right? So as the saying goes, innovation happens at the intersection of disciplines. So with that very brief introduction, let me dive into the topic. And just as the previous speaker said, I think a lot has been said regarding the policy itself. So I don't want to necessarily belabor the point. So let me give you my personal viewpoint on this. So as a commercial vehicle manufacturer, Ashok Leyland is pretty much in the same position as many other commercial vehicle manufacturers who are our competitors in India and abroad. This decade, which just started in 2021, which is going all the way to 2013, is being viewed as a decade of transition for the automobile industry. And I think all of these pieces, including the scrappage policy that are coming together, are going to be a very salient part of this transition. A key aspect of this transition is what is the future of the diesel engine, which is what we're all asking ourselves. It is a question that can't be answered just by one company. It is a question that every automobile manufacturer is asking themselves. It needs to ask their competitors, needs to talk to the government about. Of course, the government is working on these points, bringing in alternate fuels, bringing in a lot of new mandates in the market in terms of biofuels, in terms of LNG, CNG, and so on, in terms of hydrogen. And it's not just the government, right? It's also the other big players in the market who will invest their resources into future technologies, which will determine the direction that this decade will take. So in a sense, it's a very uncertain period, but it's also a period of opportunity for the automobile industry. So we also believe that many future powertrains or combinations of powertrains are possible. And we are, in fact, seriously innovating along all of these lines, trying to figure out what the right combination of technologies is to deploy into the market and what needs to be invented in the coming few years. So back to the scrappage policy. There was a time, even globally, not just in India, where there was hardly any attention to scrappage, right? So in fact, many countries did not invent the scrappage policy right when automobiles were invented, but these things came later. And there are two sides to the coin, right? So on one side, yes, obviously the ability to recycle, the ability to scrap in a controlled manner is going to give a lot of benefits to the customer, to the market, to the environment, There's also the other side to the coin where it will open up our eyes, which is also positive. It will open up our eyes to the negative costs involved in scrappage, right? So in other words, what is for example, the environmental harm that a lot of the scrappage is causing? And if we are able to quantify that, when we are able to quantify that, that will give another dimension to the whole act of scrappage, and which for that reason and for that reason alone, we could be supporting a policy of this sort. It's a very big deal in the sense. So even in the US, there was a company, for instance, without naming names, which a long time ago dumped PCBs into a river, which was feeding water to the local city, and which literally meant that there was no clear policy on what to do with those PCBs at those times, right? And if you remember those times, PCBs used to have lead before there was regulation on anti-airs, before lead-free and so on, right? And later on in the 2000s, in the 90s and 2000s, this company was actually legally made to dredge that river and remove those PCBs one by one. Literally. So people have to pay the price at some point, right? Even today, if there is no policy. So this company could have argued and would have argued that when they were dumping it, there was no policy in place, but that did not fly clearly. So they had to bear the cost of that, of their actions, right? So yes, a policy for scrappage is absolutely imperative. But then what I am viewing it as personally is a stepping stone. So a starting point in a much larger policy that needs to come, that is due to come, in terms of what is the total cost that a customer really incurs when he buys an automobile, right? Whether it's a commercial vehicle, whether it's a personal vehicle. I don't think we are quite doing that analysis today, right? So in the sense that if you, for example, if you may dig a bore well in your home, in water-starved areas. But what is the total cost of that borewell? I mean, today the people look at it as what is the initial cost, and then everything else is almost free because you just have to run a pump and pump up the water. But then what is the total cost of ownership, for lack of a better phrase, for something like that, right? I mean, nobody really knows and nobody is able to quantify at the moment. Right, but then I think something like the scrappage policy, and as I said earlier, I'm just trying to give you my opinion in a little bit of a different way compared to what was said before. The scrappage policy will also open our eyes into the costs involved, not just the cost that we get back, but also the costs that we kind of never get back, and we have to incur as part of scrapping a vehicle, which is something that we desperately need to talk about today. So even before I joined the automobile industry, I was asking these questions to myself. I just didn't know what the right forum was, right? I mean, the obvious questions were, if everybody is talking about electric vehicles, how do you scrap the batteries and how much can you recycle out of it? So that is the first question that almost everyone has. And with a policy, I think that will motivate a lot of formal players to enter the business. And clearly, as everyone else said, this is not something for the unorganized sector, even though the unorganized sector in many areas in India is actually doing so well. But this is something that needs to be organized. The folks in the unorganized sector need to come together. The big players need to enter this field. They need to acquire maybe some of the unorganized businesses and organize them, right? So even in terms of our future, in terms of the powertrains that we're thinking about, whether it's hydrogen, whether it's electric, whether it's any other fuel, I think all the more the scrappage policy is going to influence all of those decisions. It is not just scrapping today's vehicles, right? It is scrapping what is going to come in the future. So we're talking about after treatment systems and the exhaust and all that, which is finding a place in the scrappage policy today. So like that, there will be a dozen other new systems that come into place, right? Which ones of those can be recycled? Which ones of those cannot or should not, right? So all of those are questions that need to be answered, but we have made such a great start, right? I mean, this is something that should have come 20 years ago, but at least is here today, which is so satisfying to somebody who's been thinking about it. So I think all we need to do is we need to keep in mind that the end of life phrase is kind of a double-edged sword, right? Which makes the scrappage policy doubly relevant. because you have the pluses and then you have the minuses, and then our eyes will open up to how much we're actually damaging in the process. Right? So with that, I will close and I will of course take questions as relevant.
Thank you so much, Kanak sir, for your remarks and on also outlining it. However, I forgot to ask you one question to you and Sushil sir in terms of the future, mode of transport post this policy, which maybe I'll come a little later. But before Sushil sir, I want to invite Mr. Samir Malhotra ji, who's the CEO. If Samir ji is here, I would like to invite him first for their intervention, because Samir ji represents a large sector, which is pre-sale segment. So they deal with a lot of they are auctioning and all the cars, because Subramanian sir was mentioning about the auctioning and all, and pre-sale and resale of this. So Samir ji, if you are there with camera, may I invite you to kindly share your details, or should I invite Sushil sir? Yeah, can you unmute yourself? Samiji, can you unmute yourself? You must be receiving a feed.
One second. Now done. Yeah. I was struggling on the screen.
Yeah. Please do share your view on the policy, and since you represent one of the largest companies in the reselling segment or pre-selling segment, what would be your view and reaction on the policy?
Okay, so what I'll go through, I'll try to make it more easy, because I can see there are a lot of people who joined this session. I think first I would like to congratulate the complete organizers, the policy times, and everyone who's on the speaking here. I think they spoken very well, and they made everyone understood what exactly the policy is all about and how we should go forward in the country. I will make it more easy, because I can see there are a lot of people on the call on this session. They might not be aware about the technical words and things what we have used. So if you feel okay, I can quickly bring in one small presentation.
Please go ahead.
One second, I'll just bring in. Okay. I think I can. I'm live now in this.
Yeah, we can see. Please.
Okay, perfect. So the talking point here is overall the roadmap for this is what is the scrapping policy is all about. I would like to keep it very, very easy. The objective of the scrapping policy is to have the basically pollution of old and defective vehicles to reduce that. That's the major objective behind all the policy what we brought in, and also to achieve overall the climate control for the country, and to improve the vehicle safety, road and vehicular safety in the country, but also to have the better fuel efficiency, which will overall help the exchequer to save a lot of money for the country, and to definitely boost the availability of low-cost raw material for the automotive, steel, and electronic industries. That's the whole objective why this policy has come. Also to overall strengthen the country policy for scrapping, which was quite unorganized. So that's the next part of it. We also found the policy is very, very strongly coming. It has a clarity that what is the age for the vehicle. So we saw that the commercial vehicle, we're talking about 15 years, the private vehicle, we're talking about 20 years, and the government vehicle, we're talking about 15 years. So that becoming, unless it's become again strict, we has to go for scrappage. So that helps the overall clarity about what vehicles will go for scrappage. And the incentives being announced, we are yet to see final lot of clarity about it, but I think the intentions are very clear that incentives and disincentive incentives will be there in the whole policy, and we can see the incentive will come on the overall pricing when you're buying a new vehicle. We'll also see the states will give the saving on the taxation and the road tax, also on the GST, and so overall the scrap value will get better. The new prices will be easy for people to get. So overall incentives will be quite attractive for the people. And we saw the globally, our policy, where we stand globally as compared to the global countries who are having the same kind of policies. We found that especially the North America and the European countries have this policy which has successfully been implemented. There was incentive policy given for every scrappage, and in India we came with that, which is very, very great initiative. We also saw the country like Japan, which has a penalty in case you're not going. It's become a mandatory for a vehicle to get into scrapping. So we brought that also. So I think that's making it very interesting for us in the country that we are bringing best of the whole world into the country, and that's a very great initiative by the whole people who have created this policy. And definitely we yet to see the implementation. We'll be going through a lot of struggle in years to come to make it finally successful, but I think the stepping stone is perfect. The deadlines has been set up by the government in 21, 22, 23, 24, 2024. Up to that, the different things will be coming into shape. The benefit for us will be a lot of infrastructure development will happen in a way that once we'll have a registered vehicle scrapping facility, then RVSF will help to have not only the proper infrastructure, it has a lot of things will happen because the testing and scrapping centers, the more quickly it will come, it will be better for the country. We know the road ministry has already working across the country for private and public sector investment into this, and hopefully the more investment will come, as I think my other speakers before me spoken, that even if hundreds and thousands of facility will come in, that will not be enough for the country. They're looking into the volumes we are talking about here. The simplified registration process and a lot of things will happen, and it will help the employment overall. We're talking about over 10,000 to 30,000 employment will come. We're talking about multi-billion-dollar investment into this segment. So this is going to help. We feel that deregistration process need to be simplified. We are still struggling what is the right way. We still see a lot of unorganized segment is working into this. We still yet to see all RTOs are informed what is the right process. So there's a lot of clarity still required, but I think we have the policies coming up. I think the way more we go into implementation, the more clarity will come over a period of time. We also saw the impact is coming quite good. We can see the boost in the new vehicle sale will happen. The new vehicle base of used vehicle, average age of used vehicle will go down. Earlier, we saw the vehicles were selling much longer age, or usage was vintage was much longer. Now things will change. That will help the assets. It will have a better utility. Scrappage segment is likely to boost a lot, and overall there will be a direct impact on the sale of new vehicles. So definitely we are going in the right direction. Everybody in the industry, whether it's a car or commercial vehicle or two-wheeler or any segment of tractors or construction equipment or three-wheeler, whatever we talk about in the automobile, everyone is going to get benefit out of this. We recently done a survey on the same scope, and we found that when we spoken to people, users in the industry, they definitely talked about that it will help the new vehicle demand by 39%, but
yeah, I think there is some issue with the connection here.
Yeah, there seems to be some connection issue with.
Yeah, Mr. Samir, can you hear us, or someone from his team? Yeah, this is the flip side of online events. It also happens with the physical ones. Okay, so I think he will be back soon. In the meantime, so you were sharing a lot of perspectives with regards to how to implement this, which Ashish Bhagra sir as well as Kanak sir highlighted. Now I want to go to Sushil sir. Sushil sir, Dr. Sushil S. Ramdasi is the Deputy Director at the Automotive Research Association of India, ARAI. ARAI plays a very important role in the ecosystem from the background. It is not at the front, but it plays a very crucial role in this. So, Ashish sir, you come from a very different background. I want to hear from you. One of the areas, the theme of the conference is sustainable mobility. I want to have your perspective on how this policy can have an impact on the sustainable mobility that the government is talking about. Like by 2030, we want all our vehicles to be EV vehicles. What is the future of transport that we're going to see and which will be sustainable? And how much this policy will have impact on that? Please unmute yourself.
Shall we continue or shall we wait for the previous?
I think Samirji is back.
That's fine.
Technical glitch.
Because if I start again, then it will be a disturbance for him.
Very true. So, Mr. Samir, can you hear us? Mr. Malhotra? I think it's going to take a couple of minutes, and by the time I think you should speak.
Okay.
Sir, please.
So, first of all, thanks to Honorable Minister and MORTH, and of course, Mr. Akram, for such a wonderful initiative for organizing a conference on sustainable mobility and giving to make it in line with the scrappage policy. So, thanks for that. So I think you have already given the brief introduction of my organization, Automotive Research Association of India. So just to clarify one more thing, because many people know ARI being as a certification agency, but the real fact is that the 60% of our revenue comes from the research and development, and 40% comes from the certification. Earlier, it was it was a reverse, but we are trying to increase the R&D percentage more and more. So we design and develop all kind of powertrains like engines, transmission, axles. Even now, we started working in making the superstructures, lightweight superstructures for the all kind of heavy commercial vehicles, buses, passenger vehicles, etc. And of course, a few years back, we started working in a big way on e-mobility. Okay, so with this brief background, I would like to enter into today's discussion. Okay, when Mr. Akram actually called me, then I said that actually I'm traveling, but I would like to give some more perspectives, more on the sustainability part of this conference. I think the conference is focused on two parts. One is the sustainable mobility, and the second one is the scrappage policy, and finally the integration of the both. If I am correct, am I right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I will be more comfortable to speak on from where I came and my background, that is on the sustainable mobility, and I think your question is also relevant on this particular aspect. Okay. So what we will see, we'll just have a quick overview of the overall mobility sector, mobility perspective, the journey which started 10 years back, rather I will say at the beginning of the last decade. Okay, and in this last 10 years, how this journey has been, what I can say, it's marching towards achieving its goal, and then what will be the final future at the end of this new decade. Okay, so just have a quick overview of that, and in between, we'll try to correlate the impact of this new scrappage policy, whether how it is going to aid, okay, to make the mobility more sustainable and acceptable. Okay. So the first part, I would like to take you through the present scenario of the powertrain. When I say powertrain, it comprises of conventional IC engines. When I say conventional IC engines, it is fueled by the conventional fossil fuels like diesel, gasoline, alternate fuels, etc. Then powertrain means it also comprises a very important part, that is the transmissions, all kind of transmissions. And we will quickly touch upon that, like is the automated manual transmission, dual clutch transmissions, and the most important kind of technology which is coming in e-mobility, that is e-axle based kind of electric vehicle technology. Okay. So if we see in the present powertrain scenario, we actually started 2 decades back with implementation of the Euro technology. Actually, that has started the whole revolution in this mobility sector. Okay, and then I think around down the line, 5 to 6 years back, okay, the whole discussion started that we started with the Euro 1, and when we reached to the Euro 4, then the whole discussion started that now let's start discussions on implementation of the Euro 6 emission norms by skipping Euro 5. Okay, in our terminology, we call it as a BS5 and BS6. So the first decision, I think, what the MORTH has taken, okay, I think it's a very, what I can say, dynamic decision taken by the MORTH to skip the BS5, emission legislations and directly jump from BS4 to BS6. There was a lot of, obviously, there was a lot of reluctance initially. And of the obvious reason was that the time for implementation of this policy from changing from this BS4 to BS6, and of course the cost of the product, okay, which is going to increase. So what happened in this? All OEMs, okay, they deployed all their resources, okay, and they put everything in that, and they achieved BS6 emission norms. I think almost all major OEMs, they are ready with these products. Okay, so huge amount of investments and huge amount of efforts has been put into while making from BS4 to BS6. That is the number one point I want to touch on. Okay, but in the process, what has happened? The cost of the technology, okay, has substantially, okay, it has increased by how much percent? So approximately, if you compare the BS6 vehicles over the BS4 vehicles, the cost has been increased by around 25 to 30%, especially in the diesel vehicle segment sector. Because if you see the difference between the BS4 and BS6 technology, you are practically carrying a chemical factory on board when you are going to meet a BS6 over BS4. Okay. Now, at this point, let's try to correlate with the scrappage policy. Okay, when we are talking about the scrappage policy, I think it's in twofold. We are talking about 15 years life for the passenger kind of vehicles and 20 years for the commercial vehicles. Okay, and depending upon the approval, after that, depending on the approval which they sought from the fitness center, its further fate will be decided. Okay. So here we have to now think that what will be the impact of this scrappage policy and what are the vehicles come under first under this scan. So I think BS6 vehicles have been now recently launched. That is in year practically the BS6 emission norms have been launched from year 2014, where the cost factor is more predominant. That means the vehicle or the technology is more costly. So we're talking application of this scrappage policy more to those vehicles which have almost clocked 15 years and 20 years back. Okay. So as the last previous speakers talked on this subject, that when you are going to implement this scrappage policy, so there will be a lot of transformation. Okay, there will be a lot of opportunities to the present stakeholders and who are the part in developing this technology, which has brought from Euro 1 to the Euro 6. Okay. So that means it is going to give certainly a different kind of dimension to the present stakeholders while adopting this scrappage policy by hand in hand when they have transformed from Euro 1 to Euro 6. That is the point number one, which I want to make. Now let's talk about the further transformation. Now, why we are talking suddenly about the e-mobility? So now let's have a quick look on this.
Yeah, please go on.
Okay. So now let's have a quick look that how we are going to transform from the conventional powertrain technology to the e-mobility. And after that, again, we would like to try to correlate that what are the benefits and impact of this scrappage policy during this transformation. Okay. So we have seen that in the present powertrain domain, the cost of the product has been shot up by 25 to 30%. Number one, we have achieved Euro 6 emission norms. Two, third, even with achieving Euro 6 emission norms, still there is a challenge of meeting CO2 emission norms. Even with this all technology, the CO2 emissions, they are coming of the order of around 120 to 140 grams per kilometer. Okay. Now, if we go back and see what we have decided in the Paris Agreement, which is signed in year 2016, that all countries which has been party of this, they have to work on the technology where the technology will lead in reduction in CO2, and that is linked with reduction in the global temperature by around 1.5 to 2 degrees centigrade. So in order to meet that, the present CO2 what with Euro 6 vehicles, that is around 120 to 140 grams per kilometer, is not sufficient. So we have to work on those technology that will bring this to less than 50 grams per kilometer. So that is the second driving factor. Third, the substitution for the crude oil, what we are importing, the heavy cost in terms of foreign exchange, what we are paying. Okay. Then the fourth one, there is a depletion in the fossil fuel. So how we can conserve that? Okay. So all those things need some answer. So for last 100 years, what we have done, for last more than 100 years, IC engine was there, is there. There is a piston, there is a connecting rod, there is a block, everything is there. So in the last 100 years, what we did, we have optimized the engineering, and now the technology has reached practically to the saturation limit. Okay. So we need now to change the technology rather than upgrade the technology. Okay. But while doing that, one very important aspect I want to put, we should not scrap the technology. Okay. So IC engine technology is a gift to the humankind for last more than 100 years. Okay. And suddenly if we start talking about to stop that technology, it is some sort of scrapping only. What we are talking about scrapping of vehicle here, we are talking about scrapping of technology. Okay. And then directly go to the e-mobility or electric vehicles. So this becomes some sort of a disruption. This change becomes a disruption. You got my point? So at this point, we have to consider the so many stakeholders, so many players who are part of this total journey for more than 100 years in terms of doing technology, in terms of developing technology, doing research and development, in terms of manufacturing the technology. Okay. So many stakeholders are involved into this. So what will happen to this? Okay. So I think what the roadmap, what we have followed, I think we have followed the roadmap of China, where the whole focus was in converting or directly going to the electric vehicles. Rather, we should have followed the roadmap of Far East countries like Japan and South Korea. You know, they started transforming to the e-mobility in step-by-step manner. Okay, they first focused on hybrid electric vehicle technology. Okay, I think Toyota Prius has been launched in year 1998. That was the vision. Okay, so this has the introduction of the hybrid electric vehicles, especially in countries like India. Okay, would give a smooth transformation of this transformation from conventional powertrain to the e-powertrain. Reason is that it will give some life to the IC engine. Okay, IC engine technology and all its stakeholders will be there at least for next 2 decades because of this transformation. Then it will give time to other stakeholders which are in the e-mobility, such as the battery manufacturers, motor controller, power electronics. There are so many other stakeholders, so that they will get time to develop the technology, okay, at a low cost. So this time frame will allow them, okay, to develop this product, okay, and with a low cost with some new innovations, and that will start increasing the volumes. Okay, and with that, the penetration of electric vehicle will keep on increasing. So I think first again, I would like to iterate, scrap the IC engine technology. We should continue in the form of hybrids, and in the process, start increasing the penetration of e-mobility in the form of electric vehicle. Okay. Now, while doing that, the third question comes whether this technology, the transformation from ICE to HEV, from HEV to EV, and there will be one more fuel cell electric vehicle, how it can be sustainable, how it can be affordable, and finally, how it can be acceptable. Ultimately, it is the end user and it is the end customer who is going to decide the fate. Okay. So I think two aspects we are covering in this conference. One is all efforts to make this technology sustainable. And now recently the policy what has been initiated by MORTH, which is highly appreciable, that is, even if we implement this technology, this e-mobility technology, okay, even if we continue ICE in the form of HEVs, okay, first what we have to do, we have to scrap the vehicles which are on the road. Okay, I think that should be the main focus rather than scrapping any kind of technology and promoting any specific technology.
Right. If you can conclude in 1 minute, sir.
Yeah. So what, in conclusion, what we want to say, in next 2 decades, all technologies will coexist. It will be ICE, it will be EV, it will be hybrid, HEV, and the fuel cell electric vehicles will come in some specific segments, such as the intercity bus applications or the heavy commercial vehicles like truck applications, and even for small 3-wheelers, small commercial vehicles, where the fuel cell will come in the form of range extender. Okay, so we have to go, I think we have to focus on these two aspects, sustainable technology and scrapping policy. It has to go in a in a concurrent way, okay, so that they should follow the path parallelly. And I think at the end of the 2 decades, we can see the real picture that which technology is going to compete with each other and which will be the superior for each other. So that was, I think, which I thought that I should present from the perspective of the sustainable part of this conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Excellent. There are a lot of points. So scrapping of technology was a little eye-opener. And the second point I liked was 60% of your revenue now comes from R&D.
That is the target.
That's the target. Okay. I wish you have already achieved it. So, what I want to emphasize, if India has to be the leader tomorrow in any sector, whether it is economic leader, automobile leader, any leader, scrap leader, it is the R&D which can make it. Technology, R&D, globalization. These are 3 things we have to adopt massively, whichever business you belong to. If you can adapt it, no one can stop us. And I think ARAI can set the roadmap for the automobile sector in that way. I will quickly come to Samir sir. Samir sir could not finish his presentation. Let us quickly have that. Then I'll come to Devartha and Akhilesh sir to sum up the discussion. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you, Akram, and sorry for that. I tried my best.
Technology.
Yes. So so that's what we said. We when we done the survey, we found that everybody will get benefit out of it, and that exactly has happened. And we also saw what is the expected outcome of this policy. We saw there is a huge creation of scrap yards will happen all across the country. This is going to be a big move. Employment generation, we are expecting 35,000 new employment generation, along with multi-billion-dollar investment will come in this sector. We are talking about improved revenue for the government exchequer, could be 40,000 crore rupees will go more into GST and other collection, which will help the whole industry and the economy. And we also feel there will be reduction in the prices because auto components prices should fall because of more easier and faster ways of recycling of metal and plastic parts will be there, which will help the reduction in the prices, and also overall reduction in the pollution for the country. So I think these are going to be the major factors which will help because of the policy, because of scrappage policy. These all outcomes will happen in the country. We also feel this is a economy, like it's a circular economy we are talking about, which means the circular economy depends on reuse, sharing, repair, refurbishment, and remanufacturing and recycling of resources.
Recording
So
stopped.
Exactly, we are going into that direction. And in circular economy, products, material, equipment, and infrastructure are kept in use for longer, thus improving overall productivity. So we feel this exactly will happen in this because of this policy. And we are coming with a background, as you know, we as a Shriram Automall, we're part of Shriram Transport Finance Group, also Carted Tech Group. Both the groups are very, very strong into used vehicle as well as new vehicle business. We are the pioneers, and within us, Shriram Automall, we are talking from a perspective of Shriram Automall, which is the largest physical auction company. We do over 1.3 million transactions have already happened with 1.7 million customers, and over close to 5 million vehicles have already come to our platform. So we have a lot of idea, a lot of information, because of our inspection and valuation through Android Auto, our different businesses what we started with, that we have a lot of understanding about this business. We also done a lot of surveys recently, and we saw the trends that people will go for more and more vehicle buying. Even if it is a used, they will be more interested. They will be definitely going for both used and unused both. So overall economy sentiment is quite great, and we feel this will help the economy. This will help the complete scrappage policy, which is coming up now, will overall boost the economy. It will reduce the pollution. It will help the revenues for the exchequer. We are talking of potential of 7 million vehicles ready for scrappage. I think the whole automobile sector and nation will get benefit out of it. So that's all from our side. We fully welcome the scrappage policy. We are going to be the major player and part and parcel of the whole things which will go from now. The journey will be, we know, will not be easy. Journey will be tough, and but we are expecting the things will get better and better, and with all the stakeholders involved, the journey will become smooth over a period of time. So thank you very much from our side.
Thank you, Samitji, for your views. I will quickly go to, this point from you shows that you have some strength and some, opportunities post the policy in this sector, because you represent the reselling sector, which is supposed to be the most disruptive, which is supposed to face the disruption of the policy. So very good to hear that. I will come to Devartha now. Devartha represents the plastic recycling industry, and a large part of automobile and cars is all about plastic. How this is going to impact your profession, your business, Devartha? Devartha leads a Sampurna Art, one of the leading, rising. So Devartha himself is a social entrepreneur, and his venture, Sampurna Art, is actually bringing a lot of social revolution and innovation in the ecosystem. So Devartha, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Akram. I hope I'm audible.
Yeah.
And yeah, thank you. Thank you for the introduction. So I think, so first of all, thank you again for welcoming to this platform and to share my ideas. It was a really nice experience hearing from everyone else till now. So I will quickly introduce our work, what we do, and so we are into plastic recycling, as you told. But overall, we come in as a waste management company, and we have been working with different segments, municipalities, informal waste markets, waste generators. We have been working with the whole set of stakeholders, and I see a lot of synergy of what we're talking about with the plastic waste management rules, which came in 2018 and actually 2016, and it's getting updated every year. So, which talked about extended producer responsibility, which talks about brands, owners, and manufacturers, whoever is using plastic packaging as part of their products and services, to take more responsibility in collection and ensure proper recycling, pollution certified recycling for the substances. So we have been working with many such brand owners, and apparently like Hindustan Lever, Coca-Cola, Asian Paints, this all happened to our clients. And interestingly, we recently have started working with Maruti as well as Toyota Kirloskar as pan-India partners for implementation of extended producer responsibility policies. So initially, we are mostly looking at the different kind of plastic waste that they're using apart from the car parts. But soon we are also trying to get into the car parts of it. So while I see lots of synergies with the plastic waste management rules, and I see the policy coming up on similar lines, while I see a lot of hope towards this, there are some red flags for me as well. So one of the red flags which I would like to raise is, like, for example, in the EPR, like, though the market has started executing, many brands owners have started participating in doing EPR properly, but still there is lots of confusion in the overall ecosystem. So who is responsible for what? Who is responsible for enforcement? And India, in the structure, political structure, and the structure that we have state, center, we have pollution control boards, we have separate ministries for different. So who is responsible for what often becomes a very huge confusion. And I kind of see that happening here as well. So I think we should be very careful in defining the policy where who's responsible is what. If we talk beyond the enforcement agencies, we should also look into car manufacturing, for example. I would see that as a part of a whole supply chain. It's not only the car brand owner, but there are so many OEM suppliers, so many people who is manufacturing the car parts and supplying to them. So when we are talking about this scrappage policy, are the OEM suppliers also going to play a role? What kind of responsibilities will be shared between the brand owners and the suppliers? I think these are important questions which needs to be answered, because these are the things which we are struggling right now into the extended producer responsibility markets, where we are talking about flexible packaging, shampoo bottles, and all those other plastic packaging. I see these things coming in here as well. So I think we need to really be careful about this. Going beyond, we have, I think every speaker I have heard till now has been talking about the informal waste markets. We are talking about the people who is actually doing the recycling. So while I saw some numbers being quoted where India is little lagging behind the European markets or other markets, I don't know how true those numbers are, because in India, most of these informal numbers are not reported in first place. So we see that informal waste markets to be very efficient in the first place. That is one of the things. But beyond efficiency, we see them as invisible as well. So we see them as invisible environmentalists. So while we are talking about them recovering and recycling, being invisible also brings lots of negativity into the whole system. So for example, when we will talk about the kind of land usages they will have, the kind of technologies, often the recovery technologies will be very crude. The final dispose, like whatever is supposed to be disposed of in different ways and cannot be reused or recycled, those are not probably disposed of properly. Regarding labor laws, we would see violations of those. We will see child labor working in the segments. But working with EPR and till now and the recycling segment, we see them as a very important part of the supply chain. And this policy should very clearly talk about how to formalize them, how to engage them as part of the supply chain, how do we train them, how do we orient them. Probably they might not do the entire thing, but they still play a very significant role in collection, in organizing, which is often difficult for many other players to do it. So how do they become an important pivot to the whole supply chain, and how does the policy look and treat them is going to be one of the deciders over there in success of the policy. Because as per my understanding, I can talk more about the packaging waste in other components. So I can talk about like PET bottles, drinking water bottles, shampoo bottles. The recyclability of these plastics are often better than many of the European and the US markets that we're talking about. I'm sure that will be very true or nearly true for the car wastage as well. So it's very important that we cannot ignore this whole segment and how do we include them is very important. So there could be new ways. How do we include them as part of common marketplaces? We are seeing so many companies these days which is based on marketplace ideas, where they organize people and bring a certain form of standardization. I hope this policy also talks about that. This policy also talks about traceability, digitization, all that aspects as well. So this is a very important component I just wanted to mention.
Thank you.
One more point I would like to talk also. When we are talking about the vehicle scrappage, I think it's also important to talk about how do we increase the recyclability of the waste materials as well. So what kind of car components, what kind of manufacturing are we components, like what kind of plastics, what kind of metals, like what kind of amalgams are we using, which tomorrow is easily recyclable, easily recoverable, is also something which we will like to see in the overall policy. Because we should not just increase the difficulty of recycling by inventing new products. There should be certain kind of synergies, certain kind of I would say like the similar kind of materials should be used in different, like across brand owners. Like how do we focus on similar products to make car, I think will be very important to see, so that the recyclability increases. And the last point before I close is, now that we are talking about recovery and recycling, where does this go? Where does this recyclates go end of the day? So what kind of products is again made out of it? So it's again very important to see that how the vehicle companies are talking about consuming back those recyclates and using those in the manufacturing process. So we are working with few car companies where we are testing how we can use recycled plastic as back into the production process, into the manufacturing process. But I think it's also very important that the policies also talk about this very clearly. And while we are talking about disposal, we are also talking about recovery and usage of those things back into the supply chain. Then only we will be building a circular economy. So the policy should talk about the environmental side, the side how the informal market should be engaged, and probably learn from the mistakes and the successes from the extended producer responsibility plastic waste management rules, which is being existent for the last 5 years in the country. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Devarto. Excellent, I think, perspective you brought out of the recycling, out of the plastic recycling part, which is often underestimated or under-focused in the discussion. I think your and Sushi sir's perspective from that angle again brought a different kind of synergy in the discussion. I would request now Achilles sir to make the final comments for this session. I wish I could take a couple of questions which are there, but maybe before we start the session, we'll try to do something. Achilles sir, your final closing comment for this session. And maybe Sushil sir, if you want to say something or something, we can just quickly.
Thanks, Mr. Akram. And we had what a wonderful session. All the speakers, I mean, they brought out their perspective right from what was behind the technology, which Subika said. Then we discussed about the various aspects which went, and different angles also. So it's a overall wonderful discussion. But as pointed out by the panelists, a lot of journey has to go. This is just the starting, the stepping stone, and the very good timing selected by you. But then as we move forward, a lot of issues will come. For example, I was discussing with Mr. Mittal, who is the chairman of AIMTC, probably in the next session he will be talking also. But there are around 5 to 6 crore vehicles which will be which needs to be scrapped. Do we have such a big ecosystem? Do we have the our RVSF system ready to scrap so many vehicles? Which I don't. And here I agree with Devarta when he said that our unorganized scrapping system, which is as of now, this cannot be in one stroke you brush aside and say they're all useless and let's convert into the more better system. But they can be brought into the ecosystem in a proper way. So that synergy remains, and we can achieve in a decentralized, in a better results can be achieved. So a big ecosystem has to be created. putting all these dots together, creating a ecosystem. Similarly, there was very good point said by Sushil when he said that you cannot scrap the IC engine policy also with this. And I fully agree with him, because EV we are targeting by 2030, 30% vehicles will be on EV, not the entire. So it's a gradual process that will definitely take place. And of course, very good financial and all perspective given by Samir. But I'm still skeptical how it's going to take. You had rightly said so. For the second-hand vehicles, that the used vehicles market, that's a very big and it's a booming like anything. So how they are going to impact directly or indirectly, that's another issue which will come forward when we actually start implementing these policies. And I remember while we were discussing once with Minister Nitin Gadkari sir, he said that with this scrappage, with these big RSVP, RVSF plans, probably we'll be able to recover 99% of the material. And if those 99% material are recovered, I think then the ultimate cost of the vehicle are going to be much lesser, which is as of now, which is based on mostly imported raw materials. So that will be a big benefit to the ultimate, the customers, the vehicle buyers. Of course, the environment is going to be better. So overall, it was a fantastic, very good panel discussion. And I'm sure the audience must have had the overall picture of the policy now. What government says, what government is planning, for how industry people are perceiving, and what is the totality, how this policy is. So you actually got Mr. Akram 360-degree analysis of the policy. Wonderful. Over to you.
Thank you so much, sir. It's wonderful to have you also and your perspective on this. One minute, Sushil sir, Samir sir, and Kanak sir, on finally basically some views. Sushil sir, starting with. Sir, kindly unmute yourself.
To iterate, very important aspect apart from the recycling is the how to make the technology sustainable. But before that, it should be acceptable and affordable. Okay, so a lot of thrust has to be given in making the technology, especially e-mobility technology, acceptable, affordable, and then sustainable. I would like to give one small example. For example, if we talk about the electric vehicles, we should ask our question first, why we are talking a lot, okay, but why the penetration of this technology is so less? Almost, you can, if you see, it's only 3% of a total vehicle population across the globe. Yes, it will take some time. It will take maybe 10 years down the line. As Mr. Srivastav said, that by at least 30% of the vehicles will be the electric vehicles. So we have to identify also those areas and we have to work upon it. For example, to make it more affordable and acceptable, we have to work more on CapEx part and OpEx part. I think on OpEx part, EVs are no doubt about they are much superior over the conventional ICE. But what about on the CapEx part? 60% cost of the vehicle is coming from the battery. So are we only going to talk about the lithium ion? No. There are a lot of options coming as a solid state battery, aluminum air batteries, and then finally the fuel cells. Here also again the question comes, whether the fuel cells are competitors to the electric vehicles or not. No. The answer is that they are supplementary. But while doing that, again, the cost of the fuel cell itself, the cost of hydrogen itself, availability of the hydrogen itself. So all those technologies has to be focused, has to be worked. So what I can say, we have to take a lot of projects, demonstration-based projects in all the segments. We have to identify those applications first. For example, fuel cell, we should not talk just a demo of 5 kilowatt
Thank
fuel
you, sir.
cell.
Thank you. Basically, in 1 minute, because we have to move to the second session.
Yeah. So that was I wanted to tell you.
Absolutely.
Let's focus on this and then bring the technology more to the consumer.
Exactly. Scrapping the technology. The journey begins at or with scrapping of our technology. No more the current technology will exist. We have to. So Samir sir, you're closing. 1 minute, just something.
Yeah, I think we know it's a very, very great initiative. It's a long journey. We need to be very clear. It looks very easy. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be for every stakeholder, going to be a tough journey. But I think we're in the right perspective. We have started at the right perspective, at the right timing. Timing is perfect. It will help the economy. It will help the exchequer. But I think we, as all the stakeholders, should be ready. It's going to be a long and tough journey. Let's be part and parcel of this whole ecosystem. We're going to make changes, and let's be part of it. Let's take it in a positive note. That's all.
Thank you. Dr. Subramaniam, sir, over to you for a quick 1 minute reaction.
I'll take less than a minute. So I would like all of this to be quantified, I think, for it to be much more meaningful. Just like today we are quantifying the cost of the vehicle, we are quantifying the running cost of the vehicle. Just like that, if the scrappage cost of that vehicle, both the pluses and minuses, can be quantified, and if the customer is made aware, not just the customer, but the manufacturer, customer, government, everybody, that would be a big deal. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Thank you so much, our honorable speakers for this session. I think Subramaniam sir, Akhilesh sir, Sushil sir, Devartha, and Samir sir, all of you have shared excellent perspective coming from different segment within the automobile sector. Wonderful to have you. We will quickly move to our next session. I will not repeat the summaries of our last session. Maybe we'll do it in the end. Couple of core policy suggestions which are coming again and again, which also MONOSTEEL India Limited has also highlighted, is preferred startup category. Like what kind of motivation, incentives, or kind of support that we are going to give to the startup category or startups ecosystem would be very important, because we cannot also forget the fact that 80% of the recyclers are or transporters belong to smaller segments or informal segments, and they often fall under the startup category. What kind of support? Compensation to AVSM, that is again a very important point. And then sustainability support from center as well as state on the compensation category, like the MEIS or duty drawback, which I think MONOSTEEL has shared. Then recycling of the other commodities under one roof. This is again can be a very game changer if government allows recycling of many commodities under one roof, so that recyclers do not fall or do not work under their margin, because they have to make a lot of investment. So, that kind of support, special incentives for foreign collaboration. Today is the era of globalization, and we need FDI, we need foreign technology, we need foreign support. How and what kind of foreign support can be given or would be given would be a very important perspective going forward. And then active participation of the banking sector and insurance sector. We have tried to have a banker and insurance company in our platform, but till now they're absolutely clueless as to what is going to be their role under this policy. So we have requested them that kindly have a look at the policy and let us again have a discussion on the insurance and banking, because without finance and insurance, the sector might have some more different kind of difficulty. And the final one is logistics cost. These are hardcore metal or material. You cannot transport a truck scrap from Delhi to Gujarat or Chennai. So this logistic cost can become one of the huge bottleneck or barrier in the entire ecosystem. But these are the challenges, so we have to overcome them. So the mindset should be what kind of incentives and things can be brought in so that we make maximum out of the policy. Now, with this, we move to our next session, and the most important session, I think, of the evening, one of the most important sessions, because here we have the leaders of some of the prominent associations and chambers of commerce who have been again working in promoting industry and policy advocacy. And also one of our partner organizations is here, MRAI, the Secretary General of MRAI, Mr. Amar Singh, the most dynamic and most innovative person coming in the recycling sector, and with a lot of ideas, lot of energetic initiatives that he has. Policy Times is always proud to associate, partner with him in terms of all the initiatives that MRAI is taking, as well as the Policy Times will take. I think and with him, I also want to welcome and invite some of the prominent, industrialists and businessmen and actually visionary individuals. Shri Kiritbhai M. Soniji, President of Saurashtra Chambers of Commerce and Industries, Bhavnagar, one of the leading, business personality based in Gujarat, who has been working on this startup policy since the beginning, with Mansukh Bhai Mandavia ji. Second is Mr. Vikrant Mohanji is the President of All India Automobile Workshops Association. Again, a very important association to contribute in this sector. Next is S.K. Mittal sir, Chairman, All India Motor Transport Congress, one of the oldest chamber in the automobile segment, contributing silently and without much noise and hoopla, but very, very serious organization doing a lot of work. Harish Parmar sir, a warm welcome and thank you so much for joining us. Honorary Secretary of Ship Recycling Industry Association, a very important organization, and a lot of work they're doing in Gujarat. With them, we have Mr. Osjat Sheikh, who's the General Manager of Andhra Pradesh Maritime Board. Mr. Osjat is a very dynamic policymaker and doing a lot of work, bringing a lot of initiatives. We'll be very excited to hear from him as to what kind of initiatives he has to offer for the industry. Then we have Dr. Tausim Malik, who is the founder of Startup Villages, and a lot of initiatives who has been working in the startup domain since decades now. So he would be an interesting perspective, interesting speaker in terms of bringing perspectives from that sector. So this, I made the job easy for our moderator by introducing them all. I want to welcome and invite the chairman of the next session, Dr. P. Shekhar, who is a policy influencer, a thinker since last couple of decades. He has been dedicating himself in nation building, in bringing initiatives that are very important to take India to the next level. Just a small perspective, next 30 to 40 years belongs to India. The China's era is gone, and this is now the era of India. Now, how India can take the lead would be an interesting perspective for us to see in future. And the people who are in the frame have a lot to contribute and play critical role in transforming this country to go to the next level. One small point I will say about China, and then I'll move to and hand over to Dr. Shekhar, is why China has been successful for low cost manufacturing. Most of us, we might not have the direct answer, but most of us do we know. The most important area or segment where China made massive investment in R&D was recycling. And China's large chunk of Chinese manufacturing raw materials actually come from the recycled material. Since China has mastered their recycling sector, and it is one of the best recycling sectors of the world. Chinese recycling is the most advanced and the best in the world. And they have developed it deliberately so that 80% of their manufacturing materials come from the recycling sector. That is the way they have reduced their manufacturing. And that also was the answer to a lot of my question, why are we not becoming the manufacturing hub of the world? And then later on, we found the answer. It is our recycling sector strength, because we have to produce maximum high quality recycled products or metals. So with this, I hand over to Dr. Shekhar to kindly take over the session.
Thank you, Akram. As you said, this will be one of the important sectors, one of the important part of the event. So today, this event, as per title, is Policy Opportunities, Circularity, and Implementation Issues. But since these are all various associations, they are free to, slightly deviate from here. We do not have to 100% stick to it. As far as the overall objective is to see that, what we are saying makes sense for future. in terms of scrapping policy is one of the terms which is being used. It has got a huge, meaning. It has got a huge implication. It has got a different. Just to give you a small example. Now, we are talking of a country. Many times people say, oh, we are too late at doing this. Okay. If you do it early, you don't have so many vehicles to scrap. You don't have so many mindset to scrap. And an Indian is bound to whatever is there. Even if he's got a broken, there are a lot of jokes going around. Even if you have a small, thread of our pajama, we use it. Or even if you have a toothpaste which is brush which is broken, we use it. But that mindset is not going to grow slowly. Today it is going. Today we are on a little more prosperous level. We do not want this thing. There is some portion which doesn't even want to touch anything which is bad. Now, when we say bad, do we say a scrap vehicle is bad? This is a second question. Scrap vehicle is not a bad vehicle. Like Akram pointed out, there is more value in the scrap vehicle than many other things which is getting processed. It is a question of how you process it. It is a semi-processed material. It is just like a person who has come from one portion and gone to some level, and then he has so much knowledge built in. Same thing is there inside the scrap material. So even if we get some numbers game, like somebody said, we almost have 300 million or more vehicles. Even if you put the word 10,000 rupees per vehicle, it comes to 3 lakh crores. See the type of number which is available. And we all know that 10,000 is too small. So we are talking of a field which is built into huge asset, and it has got a much more technology built in and much more requirement of technology. Last thing before I give the mic to the speakers is that today we have to see all this thing from the economic growth of the country. Like Akram said, 30, 40 years. I talk of 200 years. Now, if we have to grow, of course, we don't have to keep talking of China. China has, in its own way, it is digging its grave, which to India's advantage. But independent of that also, we need to grow because we have got a huge family. Our family is 1.3 billion, growing at the rate of 20 million people. And there are so many aspects of it. Now, if we have to grow, we need to create so many profit centers, so many centers in which people will get profitably positioned. So this industry will have a huge employment opportunity. So that also has to be seen in the right perspective. It is not to say that some scrap vehicle, I'm just going to tighten few screws and then resend it. No, it is going to be made into a better vehicle. It is going to be made into a more advanced vehicle. Like somebody pointed out, you give a gap so that we don't have to scrap the, right from the hybrid vehicle. All the things will come automatically because we cannot suddenly jump the gun. So with that, let me let me invite the first speaker. Akram, will you just invite me?
So let me invite Kirit Bhai Soniji. Kirit Bhai Soniji is the president of Saurashtra Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Bhavnagar. Has been one of the instrumental personality and individual in the Bhavnagar district area in terms of driving the industrial policy and industrial change. So Kirit Bhai, and he has been one of the instrumental personality also for the policy that we are having today. So Kirit Bhai ji, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Akram. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are.
Right, sir. Dr. Shekhar said correctly that yes, we Indian are very much known for waste from best. And this is, now it's a time to implement new structures and new policies. And that is what the government is doing. So the thing is that we cannot ignore the importance of steel, which is known to everyone. But the important factor is, even if we see the statistics, that the usage of steel, that per capita steel consumption has grown to 75 kilograms from 45 kilograms in last 10 years. And government is expecting to increase that by 160 kilograms in next coming 10 years. That's to be double in next coming years, because by way of infrastructures, the consumption of steel will be more utilized. And this is where this policy comes in the picture. So it is all about development and making India a developed country. We all know that without infrastructures, there is nothing can be done. And when it comes to infra, then definitely steel will be a major commodities as a raw material. So the basic thing is the importance of this policy that's known to everyone. We all are agree on that. But the important factor is how government will implement this.
Yeah.
We have seen, we had experience with the GST implementation. The way it has been converted from one tax, one nation to one tax, many tax to one nation. Because see that it has been planned with a one tax, one nation, but nowadays it is many tax to one nation, and everybody is suffering a lot by ways of this GST implementation procedures and other things. The same way it is being happened with the income tax website, which is a recent scenario. People are facing a lot of problem. So basic to my opinion, the important factor is how this policy is going to be implemented. And that is where we all should be, all the stakeholders should be very much active on that part. The best part of this government is, yes, that they are listening. Only thing is we should go to them with the proper solutions, and then only it can be done. So that is what about my perception, that vehicle scrappage policy, this being a new era, it can be do a lot. I just listened a few of my friends in the last couple of minutes. Yes, this policy can help a lot to other business also. It is not only about vehicle scrappage policy, but it is about the opening of another industries, new era to the industrialist also, because it gives a lot of raw materials available to the industrialist. And we Bhavnagar had very good experience with the sheep recycling. And that is why I think so the national government has focused on Bhavnagar first, because we have a good experience on recycling business because of along ship recycling business over there. Okay, so the important factor about this policy is that it needs to be implemented in a proper way. That is first thing. At the same time, it should be designed in such a way, because as Akram said that yes, probably tomorrow it is going to be published publicly, the final policy. Up till now, it was only in draft. So whatever the suggestions we have made, we hope that all gets implemented, because once it comes to the public, then only we'll come to know. But it's very important that it should be implemented in a proper way. And that the basic, at the time of implementation, we should keep in mind that the national political structures, unlike other countries, we are divided into states and then it is being controlled by the national authorities. So we have the state rules as well as national rules. This being a national policy, we should focus that it should not happen the way it is happening with the other policies, that there has to be a uniform policy which needs to be implemented throughout the country by all the states. That is one point. Second point is, if this policy gets implemented, then what are the benefits? Because see, nowadays, environment, this problem that is being controlled by government in a different way. So for small reasons, because industries are facing a lot of pollution control parameters to be imposed by the government, that's really a problem. At the same time, it is also good for the people also. So we don't want to ignore that all the requirements, but we should keep in mind that the pollution control should not be hurdles to the implementation of the policy. This being a scrappage industries, so that also the one more point needs to be addressed and controlled by the government, that whatever the unorganized sectors are there, that all the unorganized sectors to be covered under the umbrella of these compliances. Otherwise, there will be a lot of imbalanced competition. So that could be another problem. So all these parameters needs to be addressed properly by the industries. This is my purview. I am addressing all the issues since along, right from day one. I'm attached with, involved in this process since last more than 100 days. So there are the people who we have a detailed communications. We had a detailed talk on the issues also. But yes, I have my own doubt whether the things will be implemented in right way or not. So we being our stakeholders, that's our first responsibility. Whenever the draft will be published, the policy will be published, if any issues are there, we should point out the same and address immediately, because government will have that options to rectify the errors if any are there. That is important thing. Second thing is, so far the policy is concerned, this business is concerned, vehicle scrappage policy. So it gives a booster to automobile industries. It's known to everyone. Why the policy has come? Government says yes, that this is just because of this other issues. They are emphasizing that the accident will be reduced because old vehicles will go out of the road, new will come automatically. Similarly, that the steels which is generated by the scrappage, that will also in good numbers. So rather than focusing only on the India supplies, we should focus on the import also. Because the number says that yes, there are so many vehicles available to the vehicle scrappage yards in the next coming months or so. But I have my own doubt. Just these are the figures which is there with the government, but government might have skipped some information. Up till now, we have never registered our condemned vehicle with the RTO that yes, we have just sold out this vehicle, we'll scrap that vehicle. So all that numbers will be reduced. So that will be another issues. Once I'll go with the scrappage industries and the unit, then it is very much important to have proper feeding. That's a raw material. The vehicle scrappage yard, whatever the quantum is required, that quantum how will be generated. Just by giving the numbers which is there as of now on the record, it is not sufficient. But government should come out with some import policy also, where we can have import of the scrapped unit from a developed country. These all are my views.
Thank you.
We can have some important things and other part also. But to start with, these things are very much important.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kirit Soniji. Okay, yeah. Excellent points. Couple of points that you've shared are very important. And then you highlighted on the part of implementation, which is the backbone of any policy. 99% policies that India makes are the best in the world. I mean, in terms of the format, objective, planning, everything is perfect. It is just the implementation of it which makes a policy how successful or how not so successful. And Policy Times and all our partners, MRAI, are working also closely with government and also Kirit Soniji himself, he has been working with the government in terms of facilitating the implementation. So I think the draft will be out and we will have some window in giving some suggestions and perspectives to government. And from this program, we have developed a lot of perspective, and government will be more serious to listen to all these suggestions, I think, now that we are generating and which may sort of improve. With Kirit Soniji, we have another renowned industrialist and association leader, Harish Parmar ji. Harish Parmar ji is the Honorary Secretary of Ship Recycling Industries Association. I'm just breaking the shackle and want to invite him because he has been also closely working with the government, helping. Yeah, Harish Bhai, Parmar.
Yes, thank you very much for giving us opportunity to speak over here. It is very honored to know that our Bhavnagar is the first site for government have decided to establish the vehicle scrap over here. The reason behind that, as Kirit Bhai said, this is Alang is the major prospects for the government to establish the vehicle scrap yard over here, because we feel that the vehicle scrap yard will promote a circular economy and make the process of economic development more sustainable and environmental friendly. As you well know that we ship recyclers, we are here from last many years, and all of our yard are now Hong Kong Convention certified yards over here. We have in concern with the government from last many years with the European and Japanese owners, and out of our 100 yards, more than 90% yard are compliant with the Hong Kong Convention certificate. That means we are registered with the class NK or class RINA or by IRS class to recycle our ship as per the international standards and environmental friendly ship recycling yard. You well aware that when this policy has been declared by our Honorable Prime Minister, he also mentioned so many times Alang, because Alang is the place where you can do this work with environmental friendly and get the maximum benefit to our environmental as well as the business is concerned. Vehicle scrapping activity aimed at recycling yard for the unfit vehicle will give a new identity to India mobility and auto sector. It will modernize the vehicular populated on our city roads. This will enhance environmental too. Apart from the reducing pollution, this scrap policy will also make India self-reliant on automobile and metal sectors and also prove beneficial to common man also, as well as the new entrepreneur also, because we is introducing this business new. As you well aware that our Bhavnagar businessman, this MONOSTEEL, who is the one of the most taking a keen part over here, and they are looking for that also. Policy declared by the government is people friendly. That is, people who gave their old vehicle to turning into the scrap will be given a certificate by the government. People having this certificate will not be charged any registration fees on new purchase of a vehicle, and some cases the road tax also. And if the company agreed, then they will get a price relaxation also in new vehicle. Why Alang? I want to say that because of Alang is the only place where they can get all the facility ready to now. We have all yard with the international standards, fully impermeable floors, with the cranes, loaders, and scrapping yard, with the labor who have trained for these cutting activities or the scrapping activities. So Alang is a major part of role by this vehicle scrap activity, because we have by road, we have a very good connectivity by the major cities, by train, by air. Pipavav port and Bhavnagar port is also major part for our Bhavnagar to get the beneficiary of that, because Pipavav, we can import cars also from the outside. Bhavnagar have a jetty where already our Roro ferry is going on. So old car can be also come by that. So Bhavnagar is a major opportunity to get this vehicle scrap policy. But as Kirit Bhai said, I have also some doubt on this scrapping policy, is that because these unorganized sectors is the major role play to discourage the entrepreneur who is introducing in this new business. Because as before 5 years, we are handling somewhere around 300 ships and somewhere around 3.5 million metric ton over here. But once the Hong Kong Convention apply, once you from undeveloped to developed country, when you are going by organized sector, by taking environmental friendly and everything, at that time we are reducing our business. Now we are handling somewhere around 200 ships. We are decreasing. The same, as far as the tonnage is handling, we are decreasing because of the norms and environmental and safety norms are there, because our competitor are giving more price. The same thing can be happen in vehicle scrap also, because till today, whatever the waste is generated, now it will cost to dispose of. When whoever they introduce in this new business, they have to pay the cost for the all waste, hazardous and non-hazardous waste. So we have to keep in mind that we can give the maximum benefit to the businessmen, those come into this business, by giving their like a Kutch have given this tax benefit or something like that. Then only they can do this business. One more thing, if Bhavnagar is a major one place, once again, if the Ahmedabad and Baroda is also introducing this vehicle scrap policy, one more new yard, then Bhavnagar will not get, because it is in some remote place. So this is also a major factor. If someone is investing somewhere around 70 to 80 crore rupees in this business, and how will they sustain? This is also a major question for the businessman. So I think government should take care of these 2 points. Bhavnagar is a major because of Bhavnagar and Kandla both with this Gandhidham, because we have a 75 to 80 mini steel plants. And I would like to say that all these our participants, that Bhavnagar is only one city. This year, now they will making a steel somewhere around 3 to 4 million metric ton of steel without spending a single kg of iron ore or coal or electricity or water. This is the major our Bhavnagar participant to the nation. Yeah. We are not using any resources. And vehicle scrap policy is also one of them. They are not using any resources, and we can produce millions of tons, metric tons of steel in Bhavnagar. We have 70 to 80 mini steel plants, rolling mills. So we can save our transportation also, emission of CO2, everything is Bhavnagar is ideal for that. So I would like to say that 2-3 points that we have already suggested to government, and Mansukh Bhai Mandavia is taking care of that. And he has given assurance that whatever the problem is, that we will take care of that and get the benefit to the new entrepreneur. Thank you. Thank you very much for giving us an opportunity to speak.
Such an honor to listen to you and about the contribution of Bhavnagar sir. Really wonderful, and some of our I think participants are asking about the minutes. We'll definitely come back. I will definitely invite Vikrant sir and Mittal sir. You are listening very patiently since the beginning. Before that, I'm really sorry. It's also my duty to invite my co-organizer, Amar Singh sir. He is also listening and contributing to this conference patiently. A very dynamic, leader, leading a rising Chamber of Commerce, like association, and this association has a huge role to play. Now, what I'm going to suggest, I think, is going to be a game changer. Bhavnagar district is already contributing like this. Imagine if we can set up an SEZ for recyclers. What kind of multi-billion-dollar investment we can attract? I think we can announce a very nice or build a very nice SEZ of recyclers, and a mix of domestic and international investment can be brought in. High-end technology can be brought in. And there can be tax incentives and a lot of other things. I think that would be a brilliant idea. Amar sir, over to you for a quick remarks about how you want to take the policy forward and help India implement this.
A very good evening, everyone. I would like to applaud the work done by Mr. Akram and the Policy Times. We both were talking to each other like 10 days back. At that time, I suggested him, boss, whatever you are doing is not good at this moment. You should wait first, let the policy come, and then we do it. Akramji, I will tell you, this is one of the webinars I have sitting for last 3 hours. And each and every speaker has contributed very nicely. Whatever topics has been taken till now were amazing, very informative. To start with, this policy is going to be a real game changer for us, for metal recyclers, material recyclers, that you all know. I'll tell you, whatever raw material our members are using, most of them are dependent upon imports. In case of steel, the dependency is very less, 10 to 15%. But if I talk about non-ferrous metals, the dependency of imports is in aluminium around 60 to 70% we have to import. In copper, around 80% we have to import. In lead, almost your 70 to 80% we have to import. This import dependency, you all know, you all are here, you all are very, very much aware about the industry. The biggest concern during COVID times and now what we all are facing is shipping lines. And the major factor of import dependency is this shipping cost and logistic cost. If I get raw material in my country, this will be one of the best thing what MRI can do for its members. One of the best things. We were pushing very hard with the government that this policy should come. As you all are aware that MRI was the part of the steering committee of this draft policy. This policy, hopefully our advisor is also there, he's listening to this, Mr. Satish Kohli. He very frequently go and visit North office. Hopefully by this Monday, we will receive a final policy paper. And the best part of this government and the bureaucrats who are involved in this policy, 2 days back, we had a very good conference in Goa, and Mr. Amit Vardhan, who is the Joint Secretary, Honorable Joint Secretary for Ministry of Road Transport and Highway, he was a speaker, and he said, please make sure whatever suggestions you people want to give, we are here to get it changed in timely manner. So the bureaucracy and the ministry, whosoever is involved, They are that much open that give us suggestions. We want to make this policy a hit. Talking about China, Akramji, Mr. Soni was talking about China, and I think you were talking about China. I just want to tell one thing which many people are not aware. China, in their last 5-year plans, in last 10 5-year plans, the most thrust industry was recycling industry. They imported raw materials from all around the world. Whatever India is importing, I'll tell you, before that national salt policy, whatever was implemented by China, China was importing 10 times of what India is importing. They have used all the resources. They have large amount of scrap. They used large amount of scrap. The biggest factor you said that what is the reason that their things are cheap, their technology is good. This was the main reason, the availability of scrap from all around the world. This is the right time for us, for Indians, to do this. To be very honest, this policy, vehicle scrappage policy, your steel scrappage policy, your non-ferrous metal recycling framework, your policies on APR on plastic paper, all these policies are a comprehensive policies which have set a very right track for the Indian recycling industry to grow. What I foresee is what you very rightly said, that how do you see $1 billion industry growing in Kandla and Bhavnagar area? We already suggested this thing that a recycling zone should be there. A circular economy zone should be there. And that zone should comprise of all the major recyclables and their end users. If this happens, I can tell you, this recycling industry will be very big. It will generate lots and lots of employment. This industry, just an example I will give you. India employs around 5 lakh people in aluminum industry, secondary aluminum recycling industry. Out of that, 30% are women. All low strata people who don't get job anywhere, they are in this recycling industry. Just think that if this industry grows, what is going to happen after 10 years? All the people will get ample amount of job opportunities. They will earn good amount of money, which will make our India proud. We all will be very proud with this. Going ahead, see, I am pretty sure the bureaucracy, the ministry, which the people who are behind this policy, they are going to make this success. The way Honorable Joint Secretary Mr. Barthwal and Mr. Paresh Goyal, Director MOT, and our Honorable Minister Nitin Gadkari ji, they are involved. Not a single sector is left behind while this policy was made. The focus was on each and everyone. They don't want to kill anyone. There will be a very smooth transition, which you all will see. There will be a very smooth transition from informal to formal sector. Not a single person will be hurt. Government has made such nice plans that this transition will be so smooth that all our informal people will invest in RVSMs. There are 2-3 suggestions from our side. First is that government should make this sure that whosoever is putting an RVSF should continue getting these vehicles. It should not happen that for some time that number of vehicles are in much quantity, and after some time that the number is going to decrease. The government has to make sure that whosoever is going to put 70, 80 crores as an investment in this RVSF get perfect raw material in perfect time. There will be a huge investment in technologies. See, these RVSFs will not run like what happened in informal sector. People will not just break the car with hammers and scissors. They will be using the best technologies. The government should give, for few years, government should really decrease the custom duty on whatever new technologies we require from outside India. These are the two main important suggestions from our side. And once again, thank you very much and arranging this webinar. Very nicely organized. Hats off. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Amar Bhai. Wonderful to have you and for all the full support, encouragement, motivation that you have given since the beginning. And now today I see that MRAI is in the right hands. Kind of intellectual insights that you have shared is absolutely brilliant. And then with your energy, enthusiasm, and vision, MRAI is going to contribute immensely in this sector. I
thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I move forward and invite two leaders of two other associations from the automobile sector, listening very patiently and since long. I invite first Vikrant Mohanji, who is normally generally extremely busy to deliver his cars right now. A lot of people will be inside his service station looking for their cars repaired. But he is here listening to patiently, showing seriousness and his passion about this sector. So Vikrant sir, over to you for some inputs from you on the policy.
Thank you, Mr. Akram. Good evening, Chairman sir, and the members of the panel. It's my pleasure to be here on this platform where we are discussing sustainability versus scrap, I would say that, because these two things are totally different. India is a country where scrap is not easily accepted. We are in a country where we believe in recycling, reusage. This is where the country has come up, and that has been the upbringing of our lives. I have certain feelings from the ground reality that I'm talking about. We don't sit with the figures, what's happening around, what's coming up, things like that. I have some doubts on this scrapping of the automobile. Which part of the automobile requires scrapping? Is it the whole vehicle or just the engine? We need to be very clear on that. We are talking about scrapping of a vehicle not because of the body. We are talking about the scrapping of the vehicle because of the engine. And there could be various options open instead of going for the direct scrapping of the vehicle. The same vehicle can be converted into electrical vehicle. The same vehicle can be refitted with a new engine of the new technology, and it can be a very healthy vehicle. Till certain extent, I wish to disagree that 15 years old vehicle or 20 years old vehicle, which has been running and maintaining well, the healthy vehicles are prone to accident. When the vehicle is on the road, when the vehicle is generally well maintained, scrapping makes no sense. We buy a vehicle of lakhs and lakhs. Perhaps to buy a new vehicle for a standard person, it costs minimum around 10 lakh rupees. And if you go for a little better vehicle, it will cost around 15 lakhs. So approximate, apart from the value of the vehicle, which is not an asset, it is a liability. We are paying minimum 1 lakh rupees just to own our vehicle. Scrapping is not the end. After we scrap the vehicle, where is the scrap is going to go? What is the next step? Are we going to build up the graveyard for the scrap vehicles? How we are going to reutilize or recycle those particular parts? Because today's vehicles are not built on iron, it's built on steel. Steel has a very long life. They don't get rusted very fast. And there are approximately 75,000 to around, I don't know, next figure. Daily, India sells new vehicle about 75,000 plus per day. And we have already crores of vehicles if we put this particular term of 15 to 20 years to scrap. Where is the ground to do this? We talk about dealer's discount when you scrap a vehicle. This policy is a central policy, a national policy, but it is subject to the acceptance of the local state government. It is up to the local government. It may take years, it may totally refuse, or it may add something or minus something from that. In that case, what are the incentives that we have been talking about, the goodness we are talking about, the employment of the generation of employment that we are talking about? Where will that go? 15 to 20 years, I believe, for a healthy vehicle, because today's vehicle is highly technology, highly digital, highly safe. Why are we limiting the age of the vehicle? Gone are the days when a vehicle was surely good to be scrapped. But today, the value, the technology, digital, the sensors, the working of every single part, the mileage, the parts that we're building, they are made out of very high technology after a lot of R&D work being done. We have created a huge infrastructure and they are really doing good. So instead of scrapping the vehicle, I would suggest that we should have the recycling of the vehicle policy. Under the recycling of the policy, if the vehicle is found to be unhealthy, unfit to be on the road, it can be surely recommended for the scrapping through a proper system. We don't have a proper method by which you can go and scrap your vehicle. India has been scrapping crores of vehicles till date. We don't have any record which vehicle has been scrapped. But India condemns the vehicle. It leaves the vehicle under a tree, on a ground, or wherever it is, and that's the end of it. I believe that the government, before making any policy of the nationwide, should consider and take into confidence the people on the ground, who are looking into it. I hope the central government must have taken into the competence of the local state transport authority and must have really done with it as per the advices. I have not heard that any of such meeting has ever taken with the state road transport authority. We have made enough of salient features in this policy, but there are many silent features as well that needs to be taken up, branched out, and discussed in very thin and layer. Let us not try to speed up, accelerate implementing of this particular policy till the ground work is all done. Even to this day, the whole public is confused as to what is the policy, what it speaks about. Is it 15 years or is it 20 years? 15 years for what and 20 years for which vehicle? What to do after that particular thing? How to take it forward to